Welcome in, dreamers, and happy Friday. Yes, recommend dreamers. Good job, Bibu Bobby. All right, my dears, we are going to start our evening with, let me turn the music down a little. All right. We are going to be starting our evening with some cozy horror podcast listening featuring the Magnus Archives. I don't know why I don't just have the site pulled up for this, but the Magnus Archives is a horror podcast published by Rusty Quill out of the UK, and please do check out and support them. They're absolutely wonderful, not just in regards to community and things that they do behind the scenes, but just absolutely amazing voice acting. So, yay! Hello, I will be here in a little bit. Take your time, dear. I hope that you had a good Friday. So there is the website. Please check out the Rusty Quill. So we have a nice setup tonight. We've got our lakeside bar that we'll have at the bottom of the screen. I just have it off for now for just the intro. And if this is your first time joining us, we listen to this podcast on Fridays. There are 200 episodes. We are at episode 60. So we've been listening, I think last week we got through 10 episodes. So I'm trying to create nice little segments. We do have a playlist as well if you want to go back and listen. Some of them have different backgrounds, so you'll have a nice visual aesthetics, a nice visual ASMR. And tonight we're in our bar scene because it's Friday, and even though everyone does not drink, nor do you have to, it's just the vibe of the weekend, right? Like, relax. This is symbology behind going to a bar, hanging out with your friends, being done with work or anything like that. So, and I am your lovely hostess, miramushi. Welcome to I was gonna say the dream bar, but what would our bar name be even? Would it be like, we wouldn't want it to be like Somi bar, because then that would be like a sleepy bar. Although honestly, I think that would be really neat to have a bar where you can go and take a nap and wake up and get snacks. And there would be blankets at the door. Instead of like, you'd get like a ticket, instead of a ticket for a free drink, you'd get a ticket for a free stuffy and a free blankie of your choice. Maybe there would, there could be like a reading nook corner. Oh my gosh, it would be so cute. There'd be like a pillow fort corner. Oh my gosh, it would be so cute. I want to make it. I want to make it our dream bar. But yes, welcome in, Moshi Moshi. I am Mimu, or miramushi, and I am your lovely dream siren here on the YouTube. So again, tonight we're gonna get back into the Magnus Archive. We're on episode 60, and I think we've sort of started discussing a bit more about some of the particulars in each episode. Let me find a page for that. But yes, please come in and make yourself comfortable. Grab a beverage of choice. I've got a lavender latte with me for my first beverage of the evening. I also have water and a ginger ale that I'm sipping because I feel a little more ill than usual, and I've got like a nice migraine, so I'm looking forward to just listening and relaxing myself. Alright, let's go. So there's a really nice fandom for the Magnus Archives if you want to go check that out. We're on the second season. I say don't look ahead because I think it's important. This is kind of one of those shows where you really have to listen to every single episode, everything really ends up kind of like waterfalling into the same pool of everything in the end. And so let's talk about episode 60 because that's where we are. Episode 60 is the observer effect, a statement of Rosa Meyer concerning a persistent feeling of being watched. Now, we've talked before about some of the lore within the Magnus Archives. You've got the different artifacts, you've got various concepts about the avatars and domains, and then you've got the entities, which is like the real basis of the story. So this episode being about this feeling of being watched, we can probably already clue in that the entity or the entity is going to be maybe the eye. So wow, my throat hurts, which is not like an odd observation. I think it's probably more that I'm in a lot more pain than I'm letting myself clue into, because it definitely hurts to talk. I love having at least I know all the things that are going on with my body. It just sucks sometimes. But so episode 60, Observer Effect. Again, this is the Magnus Archives. Thank you for joining us for our listening party. And I will throw up the Lakeside Bar, the game, when we're playing. It's just to kind of alleviate some of the fear. If you're terrified of scary things, it's nice to just have something as a distraction on the screen. So that's kind of what it's there for. So let me get that going so I don't have to mess around with that. And let me get when the beginning of each episode will sound like this, just so you know.
Rusty Quill presents.
So that's the start of most of the episodes. So we'll go ahead and get started then. And we also have our timer, which will be in the upper right-hand corner tonight. And we do a 5-second countdown, and then we mute our background music, and then just relax and listen to the show. Thank you again for joining us and being here tonight. I hope you enjoy your time here. All right, let's do the countdown. And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Rusty Quill presents the Magnus Archives. Episode 60, The Observer Effect. Statement of Rosa Meyer concerning a persistent feeling of being watched. Original statement given July 12th, 1972. Audio recording by Jonathan Sims, head archivist of the Magnus Institute, London. Statement begins. It's still there, still watching me. There's nowhere I can go, no place I can hide,
Oh
that it doesn't
dear.
keep looking at me. I don't know why. No idea what it wants from me, or if it ever had any plans beyond just staring from wherever it is hiding. I can't eat, I can't sleep. It's been months now, and it's still there. You can't see it, I know. I can't see it either, but that doesn't matter, because it can see me. That's what matters. I can feel its gaze burrowing into the back of my neck. Does it hate me? Does it just want me to keep living in fear? I don't know why this is happening to me. At first, I thought it was a person, some stalker who just kept hiding. I had this thought that if I kept feeling something was watching me, then it must be a person doing it. There must be someone following me. It's not like I haven't had stalkers before. I started to scan the faces of everyone I passed, looking to see if I recognized them, if I'd seen them before anywhere. Did I recognize the man in the green overcoat from the bus this morning? Did that bike messenger loop around the road and pass me again? No, they never did. Never. No one was following me, but something was watching. It still is. The strange thing is, it's a feeling I should be used to. I've been watched by people for years. I present the Look East segment for BBC News almost every day. Well, I used to. And on the other end of that camera there were tens of thousands of people. But I never felt it from them. Sometimes, as I kept my eyes locked on that camera reeling off the latest string of burglaries, I'd try to feel it. Try to imagine all the people seeing me, watching me. Even then, even when I was trying, it was never more than a dead, empty lens. Maybe it's just as well that I never felt it before. I lost my job within 2 weeks of this feeling coming over me. I couldn't concentrate. I couldn't look at the camera. I couldn't read the dead, empty words on the page. I ended up having something of an on-air breakdown. I guess it's lucky you're based in London, so you couldn't have seen it. I know the moment it started. Looking back, it all seems so arbitrary. Like a switch suddenly being clicked on, and all at once my life is destroyed. It was 3 months ago, in April. I was doing inventory for some of my brother's estate. It was largely up to me to take care of it after his death. My parents were taking it very hard and weren't well enough themselves to make the journey down to his small house in Southampton to try and organise his meagre possessions. I suppose I wasn't in a good place to begin with. You're not meant to die of a stroke that young. I mean, he was only 38 and he wasn't exactly the healthiest, but it just seemed so unprovoked. I've always been quite religious and believed that things happened for a reason. Blessings ultimately came to the virtuous and misfortune to the wicked, but now I don't know. Perhaps you could say that my curiosity was a fault that brought this on me, but I didn't open the box because I was curious. I opened it because I had to in order to fully inventory my dead brother's possessions. I honestly don't think that's a transgression. It wasn't even marked as special. No oak chests or triple-locked brass boxes, just another brown cardboard box like any other. I don't think that anything about it struck me as special. Looking back, I feel like it marked itself, that it drew my eye and I would stare at it for longer than the other boxes piled up around his house. The place was so quiet. A lonely testament to Christopher's isolation. He'd never married, and there seemed to be nothing in that dingy home that said he had any friends to speak of. In a lot of ways it reminded me of my own life. I have friends enough in Norwich, but no family except Christopher and my parents. Though I do have my reasons. Still, looking through my late brother's things led to the sort of reflection that makes me uncomfortable, and I was drinking more than I normally would. It was my second day down there when I opened the box.
Yay.
I'd been going through all his old document boxes, and there were a lot. Christopher had worked for the history department at the University of Southampton. I don't know what he specialised in. We never really talked about his work. But based on what I found in his study, he'd written a few books on the subject of ancient myths and fetishes, those objects that were believed by various cultures to have supernatural or religious power imbued within them. His first book was on the Holy Cross of Christianity and how it operates as a fetish within our culture. This offended me a little bit. I was worried he was trivializing a faith that, as far as I knew, he shared with me. Still, I tried to read a chapter of it on the use of the cross in the vampire myth, but it was very dry and, quite frankly, a bit dull. Most of the boxes were similar, full of notes
Aw.
and clippings and bits of research that meant absolutely nothing to me. I put these aside to check with Angus Cartwright, one of Christopher's colleagues, who I had contacted to have a look at what papers of his I couldn't understand. Some of the boxes, however, contained what I can only assume was practical research. Fetish objects and totems from all around the world, small animal figures carved from bones, strings of glass beads tied together in intricate knotted patterns, grotesque, quasi-human statuettes made of wood and old leather. Some of them were more than a little bit unsettling, but only one managed to send me spiraling into the place I am now. As I said, it was one of the last boxes I opened on the second day. It was late, and I had already made my way through most of a bottle of wine. The more I think about it, the more I think that opening that box felt no different to any of the others. No odd feelings, no smells, nothing. It was just a box, empty of everything except a single, type-written note and an old hand mirror. It lay inside, utterly innocuous. If it was a trap, there was no way to tell. I picked up the note first. The typing was neat, managed to be completely centered, even though the paper seemed to be a scrap that had been torn from a larger piece. It read, in all capitals, "Behind you." I'm sure you don't need me to tell you how unsettling that was. I turned and looked almost before I fully understood what I had read. There was a window behind me, with a view of the street below my brother's study and the darkening sky above it. There was nothing there, though. Nobody walking along the street, no cars driving down it, nothing that seemed in any way out of place. I looked back at the note, shrugged, and reached down for the mirror. It was a bit heavier than I had expected, and under a thick layer of tarnish the frame seemed to be gold, or at least gold-plated. The glass itself was a bit grimy, but still seemed to be intact. I have no idea how old it was, or what period it might have been made, and though I searched the box thoroughly, I couldn't find anything that might explain where Christopher got it. I looked in the mirror. I was a mess. Hair unwashed, eyes red from crying, lips patchily stained a bruised purple from the wine. I hadn't really had any time to take care of or even look at myself since I got to Christopher's house, and this ancient hand mirror really showed it. I sighed, shook my head and prepared to check the next box, when the angle on the mirror shifted in my hand slightly, and I screamed. It now reflected the window behind me, and I could see a face staring in. It was dark, and it was almost entirely in shadow, so I couldn't tell you much about the features, but it was huge, seeming to take up most of the window behind me. The only thing about it that I could see with any real clarity were the eyes, bright, shining, bulging eyes with pupils so dark it made me feel sick, drinking everything in, watching with a greedy intensity. I could feel its gaze burning into the back of my neck, feel its unblinking eyes. My muscles locked in sudden terror, and the mirror tumbled out of my hand, spinning only once before it hit the floor and shattered into 1,000 tiny shards. 7 years bad luck, isn't it? Maybe that's it. Maybe I have to feel this horrid, aching panic of the eyes I know are following me for 7 years before they finally leave. I hope not. But maybe even that's wishful thinking. Maybe this is now my life forever, and it will never, ever stop. I've tried to think whether I'd be able to go on if that was the case. I think I'd try, at least until my parents passed away. I couldn't stand for them to lose both children. Obviously, that was when my real problems began. I could write the face off as a brief but horrid hallucination, but the feeling of being under constant scrutiny and observation isn't something I can explain away so easily. I've considered the possibility that I'm just going insane. Being watched is not an uncommon symptom of psychosis or schizophrenia, and I've been keeping an eye out for the other symptoms, but in all other ways I feel fine. It's true, I'm finding it hard to concentrate, but that's only because I can't sleep, because they're watching me, those unseen eyes that hover everywhere and won't let me rest. I'm not mad. I'm sure I'm not mad. I still have what's left of the mirror. It's just a bent gold frame now. I tried to have new glass put in, but the only eyes it showed were mine. I did talk to Angus, though. He seemed a little bit unnerved by the line of questioning I was pursuing, or maybe just by how intensely I was asking the questions, but he answered me. He didn't recognize the mirror, but a few years ago, Christopher was looking into writing a book on the totems of what he called outer cults, small, organized groups of worshippers whose beliefs weren't simply deviations from paganism or other major religions, but seemed to focus on holy beings or concepts completely apart from what would be considered normal religious practice. Some seemed to have more in common with ancient shamanism than with organized hierarchical worship, and all were highly secretive. Christopher had apparently collected several artifacts considered holy by certain of these sects, though I could find no details among his documents. Angus couldn't be sure, but he believed that the mirror might have been one such object. Christopher had apparently abandoned the project about a year before his death, choosing instead to pursue a line of research into Inuit ceremonial carvings. And here's where we finally come to why I'm here, because Angus told me that my brother wasn't researching alone. He had apparently logged several trips to London in order to consult with your institute. I don't know why or what about, and no one here seems to be able or willing to help me find out, but he was here. I'm not going to rest until I find out why. Not that I could rest anyway. Those eyes still haunt my dreams and follow me through the waking world. Even here. Especially here. Statement ends. A bit of an odd one, this. The mid-late 20th century seems marginally better filed than most of the archives, so we haven't seen as many rogue statements cropping up from that period. Most of the details from Ms. Meyer's statement seem to check out. Sasha got a confirmation from the BBC that she had indeed been one of the anchors for the Look East Evening News between 1970 and 72, until she suffered a nervous breakdown and damaged several cameras in their Norwich studio. Martin's checking with the University of Southampton also seems to confirm the details of Christopher Meyer's life and death. I even tried to read one or two of his books, but they were a bit dry even for me, and didn't appear to have any particular relevance to the case. I've been unable to locate any evidence that he made use of the Institute's library or consultation services, but even these days those records aren't kept in as much detail as they really should be, so that doesn't necessarily mean he wasn't here. What's most interesting is what Tim found out about the final 2 decades of Ms. Meyer's life before she died in prison in 1993. Following this statement, she apparently spent almost 12 years working low-level service jobs until both her mother and father passed away of cancer and heart disease respectively. There's nothing notable about this period in any official records, but on October the 24th, 1984, she murdered a delivery van driver named Danilo Kostic. She unloaded the van's normal cargo of filing paper and envelopes before filling it with several barrels of petrol. She was apprehended just south of Vauxhall Bridge after she jumped a red light and collided with another car. Luckily, the petrol did not ignite, and she was picked up by police as she tried to flee the scene. Originally charged with reckless driving, it didn't take long for them to connect her to the murder of Mr. Kostic, and she was given a sentence of 17 years in HMP Holloway. She died of pneumonia 9 years later. A bizarre and apparently motiveless crime. The one detail that still nags at me is that the company that Danilo Kostic worked for, Paper Run Limited, is the same company that, at the time, supplied most of the stationery to the Magnus Institute. I have a nasty feeling about exactly where she was taking that petrol.
Oh.
End recording. You don't mind if I record this, I trust?
Well, to be honest,
That's kind of one of the things we wanted to talk about.
This is an intervention.
Excuse me.
if you'd rather it was an official disciplinary hearing, John, we can arrange it.
Fine. Say your piece.
We care about you, John. And you've been rather erratic since the Prentice incident.
And we'd really like
To not have to fire
to
you.
make sure that you're doing okay.
Look, I understand I've been a bit distant recently.
You were watching my house.
You followed me on my lunch break and searched my desk.
You said I was lying about a murder.
That is to say,
You think we killed Gertrude?
No, it's... Maybe. Maybe you did. I don't know.
John, this is absurd. This goes far beyond an unhealthy work environment. I'll admit it's partly my fault for letting it get this bad. I should have stepped in earlier.
You still don't believe us, do you?
It's not that I don't believe you. It's just... I mean, you could have done it.
Seriously? Listen to yourself.
Not right.
We've gone a long way beyond right, Martin. There are monsters out there, and I don't know who or where they are, or if any of you... If you want me to trust you, then I'm sorry, but I need evidence.
Here.
And this is...
A copy of all the CCTV from the week Gertrude disappeared. The police finally finished cleaning it up and examining it, and returned a copy.
There aren't any cameras in the archive.
But there are everywhere else, including all of the entrances into the archive, and across all of the feeds it provides a remarkably detailed account of all of our movements over that week, even yours.
And you think this gives everyone an alibi?
The police certainly do, but feel free to check it yourself.
Thank you. I will.
And let's have no more of this paranoia.
I've been examining the CCTV feeds Elias gave me. It does seem to provide everyone with a solid alibi, and no one is seen entering or exiting the archives except Gertrude. At least not before Elias goes down and discovers the blood. Gertrude's own movements are somewhat erratic, and she seems to be in and out of the archives at all hours of the day and night. At some points looking rather disheveled. That could stand closer scrutiny later, but for now I can't quite figure out whether this exoneration of my colleagues is more of a relief or a frustration. At the very least, it seems I have been rather unfair to them. I just hope they haven't entirely lost respect for me. One thing that does nothing to ease my mind, though, is the renewed significance this puts on the tunnels beneath the archive, as it seems more and more likely that whoever or whatever is living down there is the same thing that killed Gertrude. End supplemental.
The eye, the eye, the eye.
The Magnus Archives is a podcast distributed by rustyquill.com and licensed under a Creative Commons.
You know, what that reminded me of? That episode with the eyes. Remember how in the episode with the cop that was the serial killer? Like, this is in, like, the very beginning. And I was like, why would she have left the necklace? Uh-oh. There we go. I was like, why would his wife have left the necklace on the table? And now I'm kind of getting the feeling that the eye can watch you do anything that's even like shaped, maybe like an eye as well. So that's terrifying. Any cameras, any anything, any cameras. So that would mean like CCTV, any mirrors, your phones, any books. Because remember the episode where Gertrude talks about how the eyes were scratched out on the books. So that means that deity can see you through anything. Oh, I forgot to stop our timer. Stop. All right, episode 61. Is called Hard Shoulder, and it is statement of Detective Alice Daisy Toner regarding the traffic stop of a delivery van on the M6 near Preston on the afternoon of the 24th of July, 2022. So let's see if we can figure out which entity this episode is about. Alright, and countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Rusty Quill presents the Magnus Archives. Episode 61, Hard Shoulder. You don't mind if I record this, do you?
Knock
Apple
yourself
tart
out.
sounds
Right.
good.
Of course, if anyone else ever hears it,
You'll arrest me.
no.
Right. So you came to deliver one of the tapes? From Basira? The audio tapes. So, can I have it? Please?
I'm thinking.
Right. I thought you needed me to check them.
You don't get it, do you?
I'm not sure I follow.
The tapes. Why she was giving them to you?
She wanted my help. You didn't have a tape player at your station.
She thought you did it.
What?
We both did.
Wait, you thought I killed Gertrude?
Yes.
Why?
Look at you. You're obsessed with it. Jumpy as hell, and you're the only person who benefited from her death.
I mean, I didn't.
Yeah, I know. Finally got IT to clean up the CCTV for the week she disappeared. No cameras in the archive, but we got plenty of footage of you. Watched your movements that whole week. You didn't kill her.
I don't... What does this have to do with the tapes?
Didn't have enough to hold you. Basira was worried you were going to run.
So, what, you fed me a couple of tapes to keep me around?
Yeah.
And now you know I'm innocent?
I reckon we should cut you off. But Basira's soft. She likes you. No idea why. Maybe she keeps feeding you tapes doesn't involve me. I don't plan on seeing or hearing anything about it.
Well, thank you, Detective Tonner.
Daisy.
Thank you, Daisy.
Sure.
If you don't mind me asking, how long have you been sectioned
I
now?
do mind. 14 years.
I don't suppose you'd like to make a statement.
About what?
Whatever you like. 14 years, you must have seen any number of paranormal things.
And you want me to tell you about them?
I...
Okay.
What?
Okay. I'll give you a statement about how I got my first Section 31. You look surprised.
I mean, I was largely asking as a formality. Basira didn't give the impression you were the sharing sort.
Maybe you caught me in a good mood.
Right. Well, good. Do you need me to go over our non-disclosure policies?
It's not as long as you understand my policy. If it gets out, I'll break every bone in your body.
There are worse things that could happen to them.
What?
Nothing. Statement of Detective Alice Daisy Tonner of the London Metropolitan Police. What's the subject?
Traffic stop of a delivery van on the M6 near Preston, afternoon of 24th July 2002.
Recorded live from subject, 1st December 2016. Statement begins.
This was a long time ago. I'd been police for 2 years. Wasn't even with a Met back then. I was based up in Lancashire with the road policing unit. This is before the Highways Agency took most of the grunt work, so there was plenty to do. None of it much fun, but it needed doing. Booking drink drivers was my favourite. I always hoped they'd refuse the breathalyzer, maybe even took a swing at me. Nothing funnier than a drunk asshole trying to avoid being arrested. I usually rode with Isaac Masters. He'd been working with the RPU a lot longer than I had and was even harsher than me. I know why, though. You try to be a good police, give everyone a fair shot, but you see a lot of accidents. Not much worse in the world than a really bad car crash. It gets to you. You get hard with people who don't respect the road, and there are plenty of them out there. It was raining that night. That heavy, thumping rain that means you can't hear a damn thing. It crashes onto the roof like someone's jumping on it. Me and Zach were sitting in a lay-by watching traffic and trying to drink coffee. We'd picked it up from a service station a few miles back, but it was one of those open-topped styrofoam cups. By the time we'd got back to the car, the rain had got in and left us with 2 cups of cold sludge. So we were both in a pretty bad mood. There was maybe 1 in the afternoon, but you wouldn't have known it. The clouds weren't letting any sun through and everything looked grey, wet and lifeless. We couldn't even talk over the sound of rain on the roof, so we just sat there in silence, drinking lukewarm sludge. The motorway was quieter than normal. A Wednesday afternoon doesn't see a lot of traffic, but the rain usually brings out more cars. That day it was pretty empty. Everyone seemed to be driving careful on account of the rain, which was also not normal, and I was torn. Part of me wanted to spot some idiot who I could take my bad mood out on, when the other part of me didn't want to get any wetter than I already was. It looked like I wasn't going to get a choice anyway. At least, not until I saw the van. It was a beaten-up old Citroen C15. There was some writing on the side, but I couldn't see it clearly through the rain. It was either very dirty or painted a nasty shade of off-white. Most importantly, it was driving about 25 miles an hour. The limit is 70. There's technically no minimum speed on a motorway, but the van didn't show any signs of speeding up, and it was kind of strange. We had enough cause to stop it if we wanted. I wasn't sure whether to let it go or not, but Zach had clearly made his decision already. He was in the driving seat and fired up the lights as we drove up behind it. The van glided to a stop on the hard shoulder at the side of the road and sat there. The headlights, which had been turned on for the rain, died. Then it just waited. Zach was out first. The rain was so thick that he had to take his torch to see properly. The light passed over the van and I could see rust creeping around the edges of the panelling. We walked up to the driver's side. I could see dark shapes from inside, but they weren't moving. Up close, I could read the name on the side. Brecon and Hope Deliveries. It was covered in a thick layer of dirt that the rain couldn't quite wash off. Zach knocked on the door and it opened. The man who got out looked normal, so normal that these days I can't really picture his face. Said his name was Tom. I wasn't the one looking over his driving licence, so I don't know about second names. From the other side, 2 men climbed out. They were huge. Hard faces like a pair of old stone statues dressed in overalls and flat caps. They asked what was going on, speaking back and forth in Cockney accents so broad and fake-sounding that I thought they were putting them on for a laugh. I was about to lay into them for it when a sound cut me short. Zach had been talking to Tom, who was making some bland explanation for his slow driving, caution, heavy rain, empty road, all that crap. But they heard it too, and he stopped mid-sentence to look at me. From the back of the van there was the sound of moaning. It sounded like, kind of like a moan of pain, but
Welcome
long
in,
and
dear.
drawn out. It went on
How
for
are
almost
you?
a full minute and was almost, I don't know, kind of musical.
We're
I looked at
listening
Tom
to
and
the
fake
Magnus
Cockney passengers, but their
Archives.
faces were unreadable. Zach gripped Tom firmly by the arm and led him to the rear doors of the van, demanding that he open it. He didn't resist, just nodded and got out a set of keys. He put one of them in the door, turned it, and the van opened. I saw that the 2 big guys had walked up next to us, so I was getting ready for trouble, but there's no way I would have guessed what was in there. It was a coffin. An old wooden coffin. Rough, unvarnished. I could see splinters where the nails had been hammered in badly. Wrapped all around it was a thick metal chain ending in a heavy padlock. That weird moaning was coming from inside it. It was the only sound that cut through pounding rain. I tensed up, reaching for my baton. If these people were kidnappers or worse, we would be in big trouble. I was ready for a fight, but they just stood there, not moving, staring at us. Everything about the situation felt wrong. I looked over at Zach, and he seemed to be thinking the same thing. He looked over at the 2 men in overalls and told them to take it out, then looked over to Tom, asking if he had a key to the padlock. Reaching into his jacket, the man who called himself Tom pulled out a large iron key and handed it to my partner. Didn't look like the other keys. I wanted to head back to the car and call in some backup, but Zach was a senior officer, and if he thought we should open it first, I was going to back his play. Zach took the key and walked towards the coffin, which now lay on the wet tarmac, lit only by the headlights of our car. The moaning was louder now, almost drowning out the sound of the hammering rain. Water had begun to flow off the wood, but everything else about it was still. As he got closer, I could see the words, "Do not open," scratched into the surface of the wood. It didn't look like my partner was paying them any attention, though. He gently placed the key into the lock, wincing slightly as he touched the metal, and turned it. The chains snapped off like they were spring-loaded. They whipped around violently, and Zach jumped back, slipping and falling on his back. I brought my baton up just in case the strangers made a move, but they were motionless. The moaning had stopped. The only sound was the creaking of hinges as the lid of the coffin began to move. It was slow,
No.
the gap appearing first as just a crack, before finally opening completely. It was too dark to see what was inside at first, but when I shone my torch inside, I heard Zach gasp. I think I did as well. Inside of that wooden coffin, there was a staircase. It went down, apparently into the ground below, and seemed to go on as deep as I could see. They were steep. carved out of what looked like solid stone, and the rock that made up the walls didn't match the wet tarmac around us or the earth that would have been underneath it. It was completely impossible. I tried to ask Tom or his companions about it. I yelled at them to explain what the hell was going on, but they just stood there, staring at it. So I hit one of them with my baton. It was one of the larger men in overalls. I'm not sure which one. It was like hitting solid wood, and the blow jarred my arm badly, making me drop the only weapon I had. Even then, he just stood there, staring at the casket. There was a sound of movement from behind me. I turned to see Zach walking into the coffin, his torch shining into the hollow below. He'd already disappeared up to his waist, and there was this look on his face that I had never seen before. Relaxed, like he was asleep. I shouted for him, started to run, but I felt a huge hand grip my shoulder. I grabbed it with my good arm, tried to escape it, but the grip was too strong.
Yes.
The texture of the flesh was like hard rubber. All I could do was watch as my partner kept walking into the earth on stairs that couldn't be there. After a few seconds, he was completely out of sight. I expected to hear something. Shouting, a scream, something. But it was still just the rain. The lid closed very slowly, and then he was gone. Just a coffin sitting on the hard shoulder of the M6. The hand released my shoulder as the two men in overalls began to walk over and calmly wrap the chains back around it. I felt a sudden burst of anger and picked up my baton. I lunged at them, but the one closest to me moved quicker than I would have thought possible. His fist slammed into my chest like a cannonball, and I felt a couple of ribs break. I collapsed to the floor, just lay there, as Tom and the two men locked the coffin back up, loaded it into the van, and drove off. I never saw Isaac Masters again.
I'm happy
When
to
I called
see
it
you,
in,
dear.
I was expecting a manhunt, an investigation, some kind of justice. It wasn't like we didn't have plenty of leads. Instead, I was handed a form I didn't recognise, told to sign it, and then reassigned to the Met. Since then, it's been one spook story after another.
Right. Thank you. Are you quite all right?
No. I never told that story to anyone except my old sergeant.
I'm not sure
I should go.
Yes, of course, I'll see you out. There is one other thing. I've been meaning to ask Basira, but you might know better.
I'm done.
Oh, yes. It's just,
Dang.
do you know anything about vampires?
Yeah.
Oh, it's just that...
A while back, there were some problems. Arrest irregularities around a few missing person cases. Suspects being released without proper interrogation. Recordings of the interviews showed the subject wouldn't say a word, but the officers doing the interview would let them go anyway. I don't know the details of the investigation, but there's a new operating procedure now.
Which would be...
Cases matching certain parameters have to be monitored by another officer outside the room via video. In the very specific circumstance where the suspect says nothing but the interrogating officer acts as though they have, they're immediately removed from the room. Then they call me.
Just you?
There are a few others around who do it, but I take care of a dozen or so precincts. I cuff the suspect's hands and legs, drive them out into the middle of Epping Forest, and burn them to ashes. There's never enough left to be a problem. I don't know if they're vampires exactly, but that's what we call them.
Good Lord. How many have you taken care of?
5 in the last 9 years.
I see.
Don't tell Basira. She doesn't know about that procedure. I'm not sure how much she'd understand. She's not cut out for that kind of work.
Of course, I won't.
Don't tell her any of this, okay? I was never here. If she wants to get you more tapes, that's her business, but you keep this visit to yourself. Got that?
Of course.
Good.
Supplemental. That was an interesting interview. It seems we're not done with sinister coffins just yet. And the contents were surprising, to say the least, but don't give any real clues as to its origin, purpose, or even its relationship with Brecon and Hope. Are they simply couriers? Guardians? Hostages? At least I also have confirmation that the vampires Trevor Herbert described are not purely figments of a drug-addled mind. I probably shouldn't be too pleased to discover that there are even more violent hunters stalking us through the night, but there it is. I'll admit to feeling a bit hurt by Basira's true motivations. I suppose it's hardly surprising I've not been the most stable over these last few months. Either way, I'll not be bringing it up. Even if I wasn't genuinely somewhat afraid of Detective Tonner, Such a revelation would only harm our relationship, and I need those tapes. I can't afford to have Gertrude's time at the Institute disappear back into obscurity. I'll check the one I have, and then wait to hear from Basira. Or perhaps I should try to make contact. I should really have gotten a number or something. Well, that's a matter for later. I need to go home. Try to get some sleep. I just wish it wasn't raining. End supplemental.
Well, darn. She said, don't tell her anything. Don't tell her anything at all. Oh, let me stop the clock. Stop! And welcome, Ender. Happy Friday again. And I'm glad you got to make it. And you don't have to apologize for being late. I am just happy that you are here. Alright, so did we think about which deity we thought that might be? There's a couple of them in that episode. Obviously with the I can't even think of the name of it. I wanted to say caucus. It's not caucus. The coffin. That's the entity of the barraid. The barraid. I love how so much more expressive our 3D model is, but I think that's just because of you have more like fluidity. Also, what do you think of our decorations now outside? Isn't that pretty? Dream more. I like it. If we can fill out a little bit more, maybe we should put some more mushrooms back there too. To mushy, mushy, mushy. I love the soft swing. Like, it feels very cozy. Oh, decorations outside increase our fishing speed. Thank you, dear. That covered the D too much. I think it's okay. It looks overgrown, which is kind of what I was trying to achieve. Darn it. Are we feeding people tonight? We are. We're feeding people really yummy stuff tonight, actually. And we do have orange juice because both of you last time asked me for juice. And we have it. Oh, I forgot to put up our... Oh, man. My head. We have orange juice. Hold on. Well, it's kind of an orange juice. Let's see. Okay, tangerine rosemary, but it's 0 alcohol content. tangerines or oranges. So there's some orange juice. Boom. Yeah, I love orange juice. I do too. I thought I had like a hidden juice as well too. I mean, a screwdriver is orange juice and vodka, but that's alcoholic. I also have crepes now. I should try to see if anyone will eat one or if I'm gonna get the yuck. Because I've gotten the yuck on. This one has 12 yucks. They don't like it. Let's try the crepe. Maybe someone will like ice cream. No, look at all the yucks immediately. Why? Oh, my chef's cooking skills need to be leveled up. Are the foods based off of real food? Yeah, I think most of them are. So like edamame cheese platter, like that's the chorizo nachos. It's like common appetizers. Surf and turf, which is like shrimp and I think shrimp and like a, what do you call it? Shrimp and lobster tacos, maybe. Fish and chips is fish and chips. Zalunong. I'm horribly pronouncing that. Sweet and sour pork, crispy prawns, chicken parmesan, steak and ale pie. So yeah, they're all based off of Caesar slaw, which is probably like Caesar salad. Chicken sukuni, marinara pizza, crispy chickpeas. That's cool. What food do you recommend? Are you ordering? Are you ordering? For tonight, I recommend our best seller. I don't know what it is. But I do love an apple tart. So, how about dessert for dinner first? Because that's fun. I recommend your first statement being the apple tart. Tatin. Yeah. And then for your juice, I recommend the tangerine rosemary since it has 0% alcohol and it looks really yummy. Yes. That's my recommendations and I'll take that. I can't order. I wish like, okay, so this game, yeah. This one and that. This game has Twitch integration, so people can actually join, and they can pick which character they want. They can order the food that's on the menu, and then you can also emote. But the only game that we have that has integration for YouTube is the Not So Monday Cafe. So I should actually. We can switch to Not So Monday Cafe. Hold on, let me save this one. I do like the bar scene in this one though. I think it's really cute. But there needs to be more of these bottom of the screen games that have YouTube integration. Because we're over here on the tube. We on the tube. You take the tube in. Got the tube for going today. Okay, I gotta change the size of this one. Hold on. Oh, not that. That one. Change this. You on the tube? So I gotta mute the music over here so that way we're not having too many sounds going on. This one has nice music though, and it's got nice like ambience, background sounds and stuff too. But this one has the integration, so let's see. How did I do this last time? Streamer bot. Hold on. Auto connect. Do I have it connected? Right, let me look at the documentation. Let's look at the document. Okay, we got the streamer bot. Yep, that's good. Yep, think we did do that. Where was that? Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. I cannot see the chat yet. I will look at you in a second though. I thought I did this already. I did. Let me fix it. Do I delete one of these? Cancel. The other imports. Okay, I'm gonna assume that we've done that part. And then what? Where are you? Oh, maybe I didn't do it. Oh, I didn't do it then. Okay. No, it showed I was there. Okay, let's do... Yes. Yes. Okay, I think it's connected now. I hope so. And then we did the window capture, that's up there. And then we did the color filter, that's there. Okay, so now you guys just have to type in !join. Oh, wait, bits! I did find it actually. Okay, you can type in !join. Let me close out of this. And close out of this. Do we have a close menu? Hit save. No. Oh, do I have to close everything? I just want to close this part. Stream command. Oh, there it goes. We don't want to close you. We just want to close this part. ! Dear. There you go. Now you should walk in the door. Oh, we're not open. Let's play. I guess we gotta open for you to actually for you to actually be here, huh? Alright, where were we? Where's all? We go get there. Stream command. And then we put this over here. You can see the menu. And gonna make that smaller. Okay, good. And then is this okay for the size? Yes. Look, there you are, you're chatting on the screen. Look at there. See you. I'm pouting at the door. That actually might make me feel bad. Look, I have windows back here. Just imagining your little face back there being like, let me in. I'm hungry. Alright, I think everything's good now. And yeah, and the only thing we have to do here is just like do our little questies. Otherwise, there's the menu, you can emote, here's our quest. We don't have to open that other menu back up. I'm gonna need my cuddles, nuzzle, nuzzle, nuzzle. I know when you let me in the door. Where's my hug? And we filled up so quickly, what? I love all of everyone's outfits and everything too. Look, we have aminals. Nuzzle, nuzzle, nuzzle. Alright, let's put this so we can see. I like seeing the kitchen too, but none of the cooking things. Maybe we need to make the UI a little smaller. Hold on. And then we can see a bit more. It's just a little bit smaller, but that's okay. It's so beautiful. I'm glad you like it, dear. Now everybody is small. Oh wait, I can hot you. Hot, hot, hot. I'm giving you visible nuzzles. Nuzzle, nuzzle, nuzzle. Wait, I have to make it bigger so you can see it for a second. Wait. Okay, there we go. Yay! I love that you can do that. I don't think you can do that with the other Not So Monday Cafe. And it makes little sounds and stuff too. Oh, I forgot our tip jar. What is this music? Oh, it's jazz. It's a nice Dova JP find again. Yay, headpats, pets, pets, pets. My lovely mod, would you like to join the cafe tonight? Just type in !join and I'll feed you. Is it from the game? No. Dova JP is a free like background sound like website that is like has beautiful artists who are giving their amazing love for free. So yeah. Do you like this song? I can send it to you. Did you join the cafe and we didn't see you come in? You didn't come in yet. But yeah, I'll send it to you after. I really like a lot of the songs on, like there's good, like if you just want like free good music, and even if you don't, here you are. Oh, both of you showed up. I shall not comment. Oh, both of you sat together. How cute! Yay! Oh my gosh. Happiness. I want the whole cafe full of my dreamers. That's cute. Alright, yay! But yeah, I'll send you this song though. But yeah, Dova dash let me look it up specifically. Dova-s.jp is the website, and it's like a background music. There's songs, there's sounds. They have a channel here on YouTube as well. And yeah. Some of the artists, well, I think most of the artists, they don't ask you to credit them if you use them for stream, but even if you just use the website, that's better than nothing. Sometimes it's hard to keep up with the labeling because they don't download correctly all the time. Like the save file names are kind of wonky. Also, I gotta move our logo now. But yeah, I've really been digging this song quite a bit lately. I really like it a lot. All right, let's get to the next episode. Also, did I say how amazing you are? Oh my gosh, don't make me blush. You're amazing too. Thank you, dear. Oh, you're so kind to me. I appreciate your presence a lot. Are you in the cafe so I can head pat you? Yay. Let's see. That was very kind. Yay. Oh yes, dear. That's also a good website for you to explore too, until you can like commission a producer to make music for you. You can use Dova to find really great background music. Like half of our songs that we listen to here are from Dova, and then the other half are from the amazing producers that I've had the opportunity to meet and work with. Alright, so our next episode. Did I finish my tea? I did. This is so pouty. Episode 62, first edition. Oh, this is a good one. Statement of Mary Kay regarding her first lightener. I love all the episodes that have the lightener somehow involved. And don't forget, they're coming out with the book in October this year. So Rusty Quill, they're gonna have the book about one of the lighteners, which is so cool. Even if we can't read it together. I think I'll probably just like when we have like our just bedtime check-ins, maybe we'll just have like a quiet evening, and some of the episodes that I find to be rather appealing, or the like statements or however the book's gonna be written, I'll just read like excerpts. Oh my gosh, that headache is taking me out. I'm ready for it. All right, let's see. Get our timer going. All right, let's go to the next episode, number 62, first edition. And countdown starts now. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Rusty Quill presents the Magnus Archives.
I fill up my cheeks with water.
Episode 62, first edition.
That's adorable. Thank you. Do we have cucumbers?
Well? No need to rush me, Gertrude. I'm sure we've got all the time in the world. Besides, look at this dusty old thing. Expect it needs time to warm up. You don't use it much anymore, do you?
Tea?
God, no. Hate the stuff.
Why are you here?
To make my statement, of course. I know the Institute and me haven't always seen eye to eye, as it were, but I thought it was the least I could do.
Why
am I
Why
only
not?
growing 2
Big
cucumbers?
changes are coming, Gertrude, and I have to think about leaving something for posterity.
Fine. Subject is Mary Key, recorded 3rd of July, 2008. What is it regarding?
What a question. I wonder. Plenty to choose from, I suppose.
Take your time.
Mm-hmm.
Did I ever tell you about my first Leitner? Of course, this was before he was collecting them, so back then it was just a strange book. Odd to think there was a time before he'd stamped them with his mark. I feel we must have called them something. Did we even know how many there were? Or did we just think of each as a thing all its own?
I don't recall.
I met him a few times, you know. Must have been about 15 years ago. Not long before his library burned down. It wasn't all that impressive, to be honest. Shorter than I expected and slower, somehow. I expected a whirlwind of intense energy, but he was gentle, methodical, perfectly pleasant to talk to. Jürgen Leitner bored me. Whenever he came to look through my stock, he'd spend almost a full minute on each book, just staring at it, examining the pages, and half the time leave without buying anything. Good riddance, if you ask me.
I wouldn't know. I can't say we ever crossed paths.
I suppose not. You don't really go out and look for yourself, do you? Just wait here for the researchers' leftovers.
It's not that bad. Sometimes someone will insist on giving me a statement directly, though I rarely see the point.
Well, they don't understand up there. They don't know what this place is. You do, though, don't you? We're on the same side, really, even if Elias disagrees.
If you say so. I believe you were giving me an account of your first encounter with one of the books.
Oh, of course. I was very young, but I still remember it clear as day. I was 9 years old at the time, so it would have been 1955. It was shortly after my idiot father had gotten himself killed and my mother was still working for your institute. We were living in Whitechapel back then, just off Turner Street. It wasn't much, just a couple of rooms and a stove, but it was enough for us. My mother worked long hours, as even back then the Institute didn't pay their researchers well, and she supplemented our meagre income by working late at a factory on Globe Road. It made dressing gowns. Most of the time I was left to my own devices. If she'd had any sense, my mother would have chucked your lot and gone to work at the factory full time. She would have earned a damn sight more. Still, she believed in the work, and the one thing she was never neglectful of was what she called my true studies. I'm grateful to her, of course. I just wish that she'd got over her slavish devotion to you and your patron.
Well, you make a lot of assumptions, Mary. And I thought we were supposed to be on the same side.
Yeah. I suppose you're right. I'd just like to diversify my portfolio a bit, as it were. Often during my studies, my mother would talk to me of the amazing arcane relics that filled the Institute. I'm sure you can imagine my disappointment when I finally got a look at the collection of mediocrity that you call your artifact storage. But long before that, the idea of dark and fearful items of power had taken root in my young mind. I used to spend afternoons hunting through antique and junk shops. There were plenty to choose from back then, searching for anything strange, hunting for that thing that would call to me in a dark, secret voice. I never found it, of course, not back then. But when I saw Dr. Margaret Tillotson moving in across the street, I knew immediately that there was something different about her. She was tall and thin, with long dark hair pulled into a severe bun. She wore a deep blue woolen dress and carried an old leather briefcase that seemed constantly on the verge of buckling, although she carried it with ease. I don't know what exactly it was about her that stuck out to me, but as soon as I saw her, I knew she was what my mother had always talked about. She was touched by powers like those that watched over our family. She had a small GP practice on Nelson Street, not far from the Royal London Hospital. Back then, Whitechapel was a heavily Jewish neighbourhood, and there weren't many Gentile doctors around, so it didn't take Dr. Tillotson long to build up a healthy client list. I started to watch her. Whenever my mother was at work, I would sit myself on the steps opposite her practice and watch the steady stream of patients. Over the weeks, I started to notice something. The first time an ambulance was called to take one of her patients to the hospital, I didn't think much of it. But when another one came the day afterwards, and another 3 days later, it started to occur to me that there was something more within those walls than I knew. I decided that I had to see for myself. It had not gone unnoticed to me that many of Dr. Tillotson's clients did not bother to knock on her front door, simply entering with a soft call to announce themselves. Leaving the front door of her practice unlocked was no doubt good for her clients, but also provided me with easy access when I finally overcame my trepidation. I had paid great attention to how loud the door was and timed my entry to the passing of a butcher's truck, the roar of the engine covering the sound of the door. And then, just like that, I was inside. I cursed myself for not having spent more time trying to get a sense of the interior of the building, as I'd not expected the waiting room to be so sparse. There were 3 uncomfortable-looking wooden chairs, several bookshelves filled with worn-looking paperbacks, and a dim bulb in a wire cage. There was only a single door leading further into the building, with a peeling coat of plain white paint. My plan had been to find somewhere to hide, but it didn't look like there was anywhere actually to do so. I remember I was stood there, still wondering what to do, when I heard heavy footsteps approaching from behind the door. I froze, looking around desperately for anywhere to hide myself as the steps grew closer. I had just made the decision to flee the way I had come when the door opened. A short man with a bristling moustache walked out clutching a slip of paper that looked to be a prescription. He nodded at me curtly as he walked past and left through the front door without saying a word. I breathed a sigh of relief and looked down the corridor he had come from. It was darker than I expected. The light bulb had either blown or been turned off, and there didn't seem to be any windows to let in the faint glow of daylight. There was a staircase along one side, opposite a door labelled with Dr. Tillison's name, which I assumed to be her office. As I approached, I noticed a sizable crack in the wood below the staircase, and looking closer saw a small door to an understairs storage area. Opening it as quietly as I could, I saw it was empty and, judging by the dust, didn't look like it was ever used. I crawled inside and closed the door behind me, delighted to find my suspicions had been correct. Through the crack in the wood I had a clear view of the doctor's door and, I hoped, what was behind it. I didn't have to wait long to find out. A few minutes after I'd settled in my hiding place, I saw the office door open and Dr. Tillison stepped out. She walked briskly into the waiting room and, after a few seconds of muffled conversation, led an elderly man back into her office. She entered first, leaving her patient to close the door behind him. He did not, and I was treated to a good view of her workplace. It was tiled, clean and shining, with a large brown leather examination table upon which the old man perched as she hovered around him, poking, measuring, and asking questions I couldn't quite hear. There was a small sparse desk in one corner, a cabinet affixed to the wall that I assumed contained her medicines and equipment, and on the floor I could see a squat iron safe. I immediately knew that whatever fearful secrets drew me towards this doctor, they would be found within that safe. I saw nothing of importance that day, or the day after that when I snuck back into the same space. I haunted the cramped shadows beneath that staircase for almost a week before it happened. I was always careful to be home when my mother would be there, but that wasn't difficult, and Dr. Tillison never seemed to lock the door to her practice. I remember it was a Sunday, and the summer had made my hiding place almost intolerably hot. It must have been almost as warm in the office, as the doctor took to leaving the door open almost all day, allowing whatever draft might come to flow through the building. I saw her inspect and treat almost a dozen strangers over the course of the morning, but still, there was no hint of anything untoward, and shortly before she was due to close for the day, a short, matronly woman arrived. She had curly brown hair, seemed to be in perfect health, and smiled like a fool as she made her way into Dr. Tillison's office. The doctor greeted her pleasantly enough, but as the check-up began, I caught the quickest glimpse of something cruel in her eyes, a certain predatory look. About 10 minutes into the appointment, Dr. Tillison walked over to her cabinet and retrieved a small syringe. She talked amiably to her patient as she sterilized the vein and pushed the needle inside. She kept chatting away as the plunger went down. She even kept talking in that low, friendly murmur as the woman with the curly brown hair began to convulse violently. Once, twice, and then she was dead. As I watched this, my heart was racing. I could lie and say that what I saw made me afraid, but I think we both know the thrill of watching that murder inspired a very different feeling within me. A dark, vicious thing that to this day I can't fully name. But it was beautiful and strange, though what happened next was even stranger. Dr. Tillison lifted the still warm body of her patient fully onto the table, before cutting through the fabric of the dress with a pair of shears, exposing an expanse of skin on the woman's back. Then she opened the safe. 24, 18, 3, 15, and then the key. I only had to watch her do it once. Inside I saw 2 books, one small and bound in leather, the other large and misshapen. As she retrieved the larger of the 2, she brushed away what looked like to be a small pile of animal bones and picked up a wickedly sharp-looking fountain pen. She leaned over the still form on the table and began to write, not in the book, but on the flesh of the woman she had killed. I could see, even from my hiding place, her handwriting was cramped and messy, leaving some of the blue ink flowing off her subject like blood. After almost 20 minutes of hurried writing, she stepped back, apparently waiting for the ink to dry. She then retrieved a clean scalpel from her cabinet and, with a care she had not given the writing, she began to cut through the dead woman's back, peeling away the skin upon which she had written and leaving behind a small patch of flayed flesh. She hung it, still dripping, upon a hook that I hadn't noticed on the wall, then stepped over to the phone and made a call. The ambulance arrived so quickly I wondered if they'd been waiting for her. 3 men in the uniform of the London Ambulance Service entered. They wore sullen, bitter expressions and exchanged no words with Dr. Tillotson as they wrapped the woman in a body bag and took her outside. The doctor handed the oldest of them an envelope that I can only assume contained a large amount of money, and they left. I'm quite certain they never even went near the hospital. It was now dark outside, and I knew my mother would be worried, but I could not leave unnoticed. Nor did I want to while there was still a chance to watch more of this strange ritual. As the skin dried upon its hook, the doctor opened the large book, and I saw its thick pages were roughly stitched to the spine with coarse thread. As she turned those pages, they flopped with an unmistakable softness. She stopped at one page, seemingly at random, near the end of the book, and began to read aloud, her thin finger tracing the lines of text I could not see. As she spoke, I felt the air grow thick and heavier, a scent like wet dirt rolling through the building and settling in my chest. I don't know exactly when he appeared. In fact, even now I'm still not able to pinpoint the moment they arrive. Like falling asleep, it has simply happened already. The old man who now stood before Dr. Tillotson was familiar to me, even though I didn't know his name. One of her patients, I remembered, who'd been taken away in an ambulance some 3 weeks before. There he stood, hunched and cowering. He spoke in a cracked voice, begging her to release him, demanding to know what was happening. In return, she was questioning him about his will, about his bank details, or where he had hidden money. I couldn't believe it. A power like this, and she was using it to try and make money. It sickened me. It still does. I knew then that she didn't deserve the book. After she dismissed the old man, she collapsed into her desk chair, exhausted, and fell asleep. I took my father's straight razor from my pocket. It was my most prized possession, and all I had left of him after he used it to cut his own throat. The only sensible decision he ever made. I crawled from my hiding place so slowly, so quietly. She barely even stirred as the blade glided through her windpipe. I'd never killed anyone before. I didn't particularly enjoy it. My inclinations, predictably, were more toward watching than doing the deed myself. Still, there was some satisfaction in the act. I did try to bind her, but it didn't go quite right, and her page was a dreadful mess. I can't imagine she enjoys it there at all. It took a lot more practice to get it right, not to mention learning Sanskrit, but I got there in the end. After a lifetime, I know all its secrets save one, and I have a pretty good idea about how to find that.
That does explain why you broke with the Institute. Who does the book come from?
The end, of course. I could never truly serve it. I just don't find death that interesting, but I've always found a singular devotion far too restrictive. Just ask Eric. Or what's left of him.
What about the other book? The smaller one?
Just a bit of viscera. Poems about dying animals, also in Sanskrit. Drops a lot of bones. I don't even think it has a real title. Pointless, really. I eventually sold it to Leitner, though it came back to me after the attack.
I should really tell Elias about this.
By all means. He's not exactly big on action, though, is he? He'll just be happy I gave a statement.
And do you have any proof of this? Your magic book?
Here. You can keep this page. I made sure it was in English.
God. Who is it?
A surprise, dear. Just make sure you're alone when you read it. Goodbye, Gertrude. Wish me luck.
Well, I don't really know what to add to that. If what she says is true, I should think carefully before reading this page aloud. I should probably destroy it. I do rather hate the smell of burning skin. Anyway, that's a decision for another day. I could rather do with a cup of tea, I think.
There's a lot here. In many ways, the context this gives Mary Key's odd relationship with death is the least interesting part of it. I knew that her family was connected to Jonah Magnus and the Institute somehow, but I had no idea that Gertrude was involved, even if they didn't like each other. Maybe I should have known. Elias might not have killed her, but there is a lot he's not telling me. I'm afraid to ask, though. The Magnus Institute is not what it appears to be, and until I know what it is, and what it's for, there's no way I'm letting Elias know how much I'm aware of. But in spite of all that, I'm strangely excited, because what sticks out to me more than anything else in that tape is the very distinctive floorboard at the end. One that hasn't changed in the 8 years since this statement was given. There's never been any reason to look closely at a random section of floor. This bit wasn't even breached by any of the worms, because it had Gertrude's hidden compartment beneath it. No strange skin page, but there is a laptop and a key. I wonder what it opens. End supplement.
I did not remember that.
Stop.
All right, that was episode 62. Oops. I'm a slow learner. What were they talking about? No. Let me see. Oh yeah, I'm supposed to be having that off when we're not having that episode. Okay, so the book that I don't know how to say it. So basically the woman who was talking, her name is Mary Key, and she is an important figure throughout most of the episode. And she's kind of like, remember how there's the different entities? She's one of the people who work as like a how do I say it? It's an avatar. So like a representative for one of those entities. And so that episode was talking about when she was little, and she's talking about her first interaction with what they were describing that episode was called a flesh book. And the people who are doing this, they're basically using the skin and writing in Sanskrit, and Sanskrit is basically like one of the like first languages, if I'm not mistaken. Sanskrit, it's a classic language belonging to the Indo-Aryan branch of the Indo-European languages. So it was around like Vedic Sanskrit, which is more like Indian. It was around like 1560 or 600 BCE, and then classical Sanskrit was 700 BCE to 1350. The Skin Bible, yeah, that's good job. That's essentially what that is. It's a skin Bible. So yeah, and so they're writing things on it to empower it or to give them different powers, so to speak. So one of the other deities is the end, or the entities is the end, and that book is attached to any avatar or person who works for the end. And the end. The end entity is basically one of the oldest and by far the most passive of the entities, so that would make sense why they're using Sanskrit if it's one of the older entities. And it says its sphere of influence includes death and the fear of death, as well as the cruel and unstoppable end of things. So having like the fear of something being over, coming to an end, that's that would be that entity specifically. The end frequently manifests through the dead and common imagery surrounding death, and has particularly close ties to dreams. It is noted by Oliver Banks that the end will be the last entity to remain when all the other entities are gone, and will itself eventually die. So that is that entity. We are going to take a quick break because I want to get another snack. My head is starting to hurt again, so I want to get something to nom on and maybe another cup of tea. So I will be right back. We won't go to our break scene, but we will toss this up and we'll leave the music on, and I'll be right back. All right. Let's get back into the show. I couldn't find... Okay, so I did good. I did one good and one... Okay. Only because I have braces and I shouldn't be eating them. But I got this yummy... what is in this tea? But it really makes my head feel better. Bigelow tea. Oh, the name. Whispering Wildflowers by Bigelow Tea. It's very yummy. It's also caffeine free, kosher, and gluten free. And it has chamomile, rosebuds, hibiscus, lavender, licorice root, butterfly pea flower, tulsi, L-theanine, passiflora, orange blossom, natural rose flavor with other natural flavors, rosehip, apple pieces, elderberries, and raspberries. It's so very, very good. That's good that it helps. I'm very happy that it helps. On top of the fact that it actually tastes good. Like I have a lavender chamomile one that I drink as well too, but it doesn't taste as good as this one. Like, this tastes so good. Could you turn the music down just a little bit? And by a little bit, perhaps a bit more than... Why are you always on me and my sounds, man? I know where it should be. There we go. I really like this song. But yes, it's very good. And I think that yeah, it has like this like purplish sort of color to it. It's really pretty. And now to wait 15 minutes for it to cool off. Me too. Because I'd much rather hear your voice from the same song that's been playing since the start. Fine. I'm sorry. But yeah. And then the naughty that I shouldn't be doing because I have braces is I got my gummy bears. I don't get them that often, but when I do, I'm just like, happiness. And I specifically like the Haribo ones the best. Those are my favorite gummy bears. But I think because they're actually like firm. Like even with my like licorice, I like for it to get like firmer and not like really soft and chewy. I don't know. I don't like it. I'm in love with gummy bears. Let's go, gummy bear gang. I love gummy bears. Oh, come on. I think I'm one of those people that eats candy really weird though, now that I think about it. Yeah. Like sometimes I like to just let the gummy bear sort of like slowly dissolve. Cause I just like the flavor of it, like especially the pineapple ones. They taste really, really good. And then if I have like something that can be broken apart in layers, I want to break it apart and eat it. So tasty. I do the same thing. It's called letting the gummy savor. The gummy saver method. Alright, it's time to get back to it. We've got a show that we're listening to on this Friday night here. You can melt gummy bears and apply them as glue for shoemaking. That's how you know you're eating real good. No. I thought that was gonna go in a completely different direction, honestly. I thought you were gonna say you could melt gummy bears and apply them. Oh my gosh, I can't even think about it because the shoemaker's just throwing me off. What was I gonna say? You can melt the gummy. Oh my gosh, it was so good. It's gone now. That was such a disruptive shoemaker. But the worst part, that's how you know you're eating real good. Like, what? Sir. Those are some sweet cakes. Ah, man. You know where those jokes belong? They belong with the dad jokes. Why are pirates called pirates? Because they are. Why, man? I'm sad to say that like some of these dad jokes in this little command are pretty decent. I'll give that one. I want you to type one so that we can see what your dad joke is for the night. What dad joke do you get? I like mine. I approve. Dream Siren approved. Maybe. What do you call a nervous javelin thrower? Shakespeare? No. It's horrendously bad. Like, who thinks of these things? Par for the course, though, yeah. Oh, man. Shakespeare. I mean, it makes sense. Nervous javelin thrower. It's a shaky spear. I think if they would have put shaky spear with the quotes, maybe, but then it wouldn't be a dad joke, right? It's so funny. Well, I'm glad to know that that was a swell idea for a channel command. That's very funny. I like that. I need to work on some more. I need to like put together I don't know any, but I could try. What do you call two birds kissing? Caw. Oh. See, but I think that one's cute. That one's good. They're always very silly, though. I think that's why I don't like them, because they're very silly. Like, I'm just like, why am I laughing at that? Which is the feeling that I always have when I laugh at them. But I myself, I'm very horrible at telling jokes. Like, yeah, I can't even do it. Thank you. That was good. But you know what I always think about, though? Instead of someone telling me a joke, I'd prefer if someone played those like word puzzle games where like oh gosh, what is an example? Like you go up into the mountains on a hike. I love your jokes. They're bad. Like you go up on a hike in a mountain and you get to the cabin that you're gonna stay in, and there's a hole in the roof and like a body on the floor. Like what happened? Like I like little like brain puzzle things like that. I don't know what those are called. I think they do have a specific name. And then like you just have to like guess. Maybe I can type it into Google with my amazing word search choices. It's gonna be go hiking, find cabin. It's like hole in ceiling. Why? Or maybe I should put puzzle. I know something similar from years ago. Oh, do share yours. I used to have a web page that had a ton of these, and I don't know where I bookmarked that. Brain cell link. Go, go, go. Dun, dun. What is it called? Word puzzle? I can't think of it right now. Brain lag. Buzz. Oh, they're. What is. Yes! Lateral thinking puzzles. I like these a lot. Let me see if I can find the one I really like. Dun, 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 dun. Yay. Ooh, there's a podcast now with them. It's been years since I saw one. It's been a long time since I've seen one too. I want the one that I want the one that I really like. There's actually like a book about them as well too. Oh, maybe it's this page. Yeah. It makes me think about that book series that I've been reading recently. The strange pictures, strange houses. Okay, I can't I can't find the one that I want specifically, but I'll just share one of these instead. Okay. Wait, if I click on this, okay, it doesn't. Okay. I thought if I click where the answer is, it's gonna make me sign up for something, and I was like, I don't want to do that. Alright, this one says The Man in the Bar, and the puzzle is a man walks into a bar and asks for a glass of water. The bartender pulls out a gun, points it at the man, and the man says, "Thank you," and leaves. What happened? And I think you can ask some questions or any questions. At least in the people who I've like played these with. Sorry. You can ask questions. And the answer for that one, sorry, is the man had hiccups and the bartender scared him to cure them. Okay. But the one that I'm thinking of that I can't think of is like, it's a very like much more wordy puzzle. Like it's a couple of paragraphs, so these are not the ones that I'm looking for. That is amazing. And then like, well, there's 20 on this page. This one is a woman goes into a coffee shop and orders a cup of coffee. She then sits down, tastes it, and immediately leaves. Why? And the answer is she wanted to test if her taste buds worked. She had lost her sense of taste and wanted to see if it had returned. But I wish I could find the one that I'm thinking about. It's like it's so much more like detail. There's more detail. It's not like a simple answer. But yeah, lateral puzzle. Okay. Episode 63 of the Magnus Archives is called The End of the Tunnel. And the picture on the fandom kind of scared me. This one is a statement of Aaron Gallagher Nelson regarding an urban exploration trip beneath St. Paul's Church, West Hackney. All right. And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Rusty Quill presents the Magnus Archives. Episode 63, The End of the Tunnel.
Statement of Erin Gallagher Nelson regarding an urban exploration trip beneath St. Paul's Church, West Hackney. Original statement given March 31st, 2014. Audio recording by Jonathan Sims, Head Archivist of the Magnus Institute, London. Statement begins. I'm sure you know what urban exploring is. I'm sure you've had plenty of amateur yahoos in here who stumble across a ghost in some old factory, so I'll spare you the breakdown of how it works. And if you don't know what it is, well, the internet's a thing. Look it up. I'm about as close to a professional as you can get out of what's basically trespass as a sport. I work as a photographer, and if I play my cards right, I can get more money from an abandoned pump station than from shooting some spoiled human Barbie for Self-Hate Monthly or whatever. It's always been me and Luke Nelson. He was my wife's brother, and did all the lighting for our shoots. At least until he was eaten by the darkness last week. That's why I'm here, because I didn't dream that. It happened. I don't care what Steph says. I don't need to talk to a shrink. I need to talk to you. We were underneath St. Paul's Church in West Hackney. Horrid boxy building. Really makes you wonder about God's housing standards. I mean, I'm just saying if it was my house, I'd be pretty pissed. Still, I guess if he didn't want it, he should have protected its predecessor from Nazi bombs. Because St. Paul's used to be St. James before it got blitzed all the way to rubble. Everyone always forgets how much London is under London. I mean, it's not as bad as somewhere like Edinburgh, where they literally buried half the city and built a new one on top, but some places it's not too far from it. And I'd been doing a lot of research into St. Paul's that used to be St. James, because it looked like it might be exactly one such place. Plans of the drainage and underground of the neighbourhood seemed to indicate that there was a large subterranean area directly beneath St. Paul's that appeared to be avoided by all public works. Yet the plans for the modern church didn't indicate anything below ground level. What this told me was that the old Church of St. James probably had quite a sizable underground presence which hadn't been completely destroyed by the bombs, and which its inheritor didn't use. Early to mid-19th century Victorian vaults, undisturbed for 70 years, it was exactly the sort of thing that's in vogue at the moment with a certain section of arty magazines, and I was sure I could sell a few to Getty and a handful of other stock photo sites. And hey, it wasn't like I hadn't broken into a church before. Luckily, St. Paul's West Hackney was Church of England, meaning they didn't lock up as tight as some places. Catholic churches can be a real pain, as they actually have some valuables inside that need to be protected, but this, like most C of E, was plain and unadorned inside. So while they took plenty of care with the offices, they weren't so conscientious about locking up the main church building, as quite frankly there was nothing to steal. Unless you like hymn books. It took me and Luke less than a minute to get inside. It was last Tuesday, the 25th. I suppose technically it was Wednesday the 26th, as it was well past midnight when we made our move. Once we were in, we kept our torches low, stowed our equipment, and went looking for anything that might get us deeper inside. At first it looked like we might have been mistaken and there was no way beneath. But then Luke spotted what looked like a removable panel in the floor, just off to the right of what passed for a podium. It was heavier than it looked, but after a bit of work with the crowbar it came off. It didn't look like it had been removed in decades, maybe not since the new church was built. But what surprised me was the air that came out when it shifted. It hissed like a long-held breath, and the air that rose up from that hole was icy cold and damp. Not unexpected, but what did surprise me was how clean it smelled. Like an autumn night after the rain. There was no ladder or stairs down, but we'd brought plenty of rope, so in we went. The gloom seemed to swallow us, and I would have sworn that at times I could feel it physically pressing against me. As it turned out, it was only a couple of meters down to the floor of the underground tunnel, and our flashlights showed exactly what I had hoped for. Old Victorian brickwork. The passage stretching away from us in both directions was absolutely perfect, and I wasted no time in setting up a few shots, while Luke placed the lighting rigs. Down there, the flashes seemed almost blinding, but I was sure I was getting some excellent shots. It was only when I had a quick glance through them on the screen of my SLR that I began to get irritated. Clearly, Luke had been standing in front of the light when I had started to shoot. In every single image, where the far wall was lit by the bright lights, you could see the clear shape of a person's shadow. I got into quite an argument with Luke about it. He insisted that he'd never make such a rookie move. I told him that he could argue with me, but not with the camera. Eventually he stormed off to go exploring further on. I took another picture before I followed him. The shadow was still there, and it seemed to be ever so slightly closer. I don't know why I ignored it. The human mind is amazingly adept at ignoring things that don't make sense, that it doesn't want to see. I convinced myself it was a quirk of the angles at that location. I didn't even let myself entertain the thought that it could be a problem with my extremely expensive camera, so I definitely didn't consider the possibility of a supernatural explanation. I followed Luke further on, until after about 20 minutes, we came to the ruins of a chamber of some sort. The roof had collapsed, probably from the bombing that had destroyed St. James Church, and the rubble blocked off most of it. It looked like it had once been a circular room. On either side of the entrance I could see doorways blocked with fallen stone. There was no way we'd be able to shift enough debris to access them, but it was strange. As the torch beams played across them, even with most of them completely covered in collapsed masonry, they still didn't seem as dark as the corridor we'd come from. I took some photos. The composition of the place was excellent, and the blocked doorways had an odd sort of stark grandeur to them. They were certainly well made if they managed to survive what looked to be a direct hit by a German bomb. I checked the photos, and there were no shadows, which was something of a relief. We headed back the other way. When we reached our ropes hanging down from the hole above us, Luke started to have some concerns. Well, I say concerns. He wanted out of there. He wanted us to pack up and climb out and leave, telling me he was getting weird vibes from the place and was trying to convince me we'd seen enough. Looking up at that bright square, lit invitingly with the moon shining through church windows, I was half tempted to agree with him. The trouble was that due to the problems with the first shoot, I had 1, maybe 2 pictures of a quality I could do anything with, and that wasn't nearly enough. I told him bluntly that I didn't have enough, and if I didn't get paid, he didn't get paid. I saw the conflict on his face. He wanted to get out of there, sure, but apparently not as much as he wanted to make rent. So on we went, further into the tunnel. I don't know how far we went. I stopped every 10 meters or so to set up and try to get a good picture, but the shadows were back, and worse than before. Now there'd be 2 or 3 of them in some pictures. It wasn't quite as clearly a human silhouette, so I managed to tell myself that it must be a quirk of how the tunnel reflected the light, even though looking back that makes no sense whatsoever. Still, I kept going, hoping to find somewhere where I could get some shots of the stark, gloomy tunnel with bricks so black they almost looked like coal. We'd move, set up, shoot, check, and then I'd swear at my camera. I don't know how many times we did this. Luke got jumpier and jumpier the whole way. It didn't feel like much more than 10 minutes we'd been doing it, but when I checked my watch, we'd been down there for almost 2 hours. We had finally come to the end of the path, and it was just that, an end. A blank wall of bricks, indicating the stopping of the tunnel that seemed to go under a good deal of hackney. At this point, I at last decided to write the whole thing off and head back. It was as I turned to Luke to tell him this that my torch died. There was no fanfare. It just fizzled for a second, then turned off with a faint pop. I looked over to Luke, about to ask him to pass me the spare batteries, when I saw his face. I don't think I've ever seen anyone as scared as he was at that moment. Then his torch went out as well, and there was nothing but darkness. I could hear him fumbling for something that I assumed were the camera lights, and a second later I heard the click, click, click of him trying to turn them on. Nothing happened. He kept clicking the switches on, and I could feel his desperation, but we were still trapped in the pitch black. Eventually he stopped, and we just stood there. I wanted to say something reassuring, to reach out and let him know I was still there, but I was terrified of breaking the silence. There was just his breathing, labored and scared. I became aware of my own breath, quick and betraying the panic I was trying to pretend I wasn't feeling. And then I heard it, the third set of breathing. It was quiet at first, long and slow and very deliberate. The more I listened, the louder it seemed to become, as though whoever was down here with us was making sure we could hear it. And then another set of breaths joined it, deep and throaty. and a fifth, a sixth, then more. We were surrounded on all sides by the sound of breathing, getting louder, getting closer. Luke let out a small whimper, and altogether they stopped. In their place there came a scraping sound, something metal. It sounded like being dragged across the bricks, far away behind us but getting closer and fast. It was joined by a heavy thumping tread, footsteps coming towards us, rhythmic and unhurried. I almost thought it could be my heartbeat, pounding in my ears, but the echo assured me it was coming from down the tunnel. Then the scraping came again, now from the other direction, and I sank to the floor, clutching my camera to my chest like some sort of protective talisman. It was silent, once again. The noise that broke the stillness this time is the one that is still ringing in my ears. It was far more dreadful than the others because of how familiar it was, though I had never heard it in such a manner before. It was Luke's voice, and it was screaming in agony. A shrill, gut-wrenching screech of pain and fear that wiped away all thought in a second and replaced it with blind panic. I wanted to run, but my legs had locked up. Somewhere in my mind, I remembered the flash on my camera, and my fingers instinctively flicked the switch. As I pressed the button, the screaming stopped with a wet snap, and for the worst moment of my life, an explosion of light shot through the darkness. I saw Luke hanging in the air. There was nobody around him, but on the wall, in stark black outlines, I saw two long, thin shadows standing beside him. On each, I saw one spindly arm gripping his shadow by the shoulders, while the other held up the shadow of his torn-off head. In front of me, the real one just hung there, dangling as if by some invisible thread, blood dripping onto the body below it. His eyes were staring at me, as though pleading for my feeble, flashing camera to save him. I screamed. The next thing I remember was the painfully bright light of a dozen torches on my face. It was the rector of St. Paul's, and a small group of what I assumed to be parishioners. He didn't say a word as he gently led me back towards the entrance. I looked around to see if Luke's body was there, but I knew deep down that the darkness had eaten him, and he was gone. The rector was very understanding, though I wasn't making much sense. He spoke soft words of reassurance, brought me out into the sick, pale blue of dawn, and called an ambulance to look me over. I didn't get his name, and it was only after I'd reached the hospital I realized he had taken my camera. Since then, I've been under observation in the hospital. Nobody listens to my story, and Luke has been officially listed as missing. Steph has been very supportive, but I can see the pain in her eyes. She knows I was the last one to see her brother, and it eats at her. I don't really know what to do now, except to keep the lights on. Statement ends. It should come as no surprise to me by now that the foundation stone of the original Church of St. James in West Hackney was laid on the 17th November 1821 by Sir Robert Smirk. Even so, I was very much hoping to find at least one architectural oddity lurking beneath the streets of London that did not bear the mark of him or his students. This particular encounter doesn't seem to have much in common with manifestations from similar buildings. We've had something of a spectrum from him and his ilk. Cobwebs, entombing, difficulty in navigation, and now a violent, murderous dark. My first thought was the People's Church of the Divine Host, as they seem to have some affinity to the darkness, but I can find no connection of any sort between them and West Hackney Church. Not that any of the staff there were very helpful. Every one of them claims to have no memory of encountering Miss Gallagher-Nelson, despite hospital admission records clearly stating she was picked up from there on the morning of the 26th March 2014. Tim is convinced that at least some of them are lying, but there's little we can do to gain any information they don't wish to volunteer. We've been unable to follow up with Miss Gallagher-Nelson. All attempts to contact her have been prevented by her wife Stephanie Gallagher-Nelson, who has made it abundantly clear that we are not welcome and are to attempt no further contact. Luke Nelson remains missing. End recording. Supplemental. I have been attempting to access Gertrude's laptop, but have thus far had no luck. None of the obvious passwords I've tried have been successful, and I am unsure who can provide both assistance and discretion. There may be further clues on the other tapes, but so far I've had no word from Becerra. I'm so close to finding something. Maybe I should just go down.
Excuse me, do you have a moment?
Miss King, how did you get in
The
here?
new girl let me in. Are you all right?
Sorry?
You look like hell.
It's been a hard few months. Look, can I help you? Because if you're just after another shouting match...
No. I actually do need your help.
Interesting.
All right, can you not be an arsehole about it? I just need access to your library.
So talk to Diana. She runs the place.
Yes, I don't exactly have the academic credentials you guys demand. So I apparently need someone to vouch for me. And you're basically the closest thing I have to a friend here.
We've spoken once, and we ended up screaming at each other.
Yes, and that's more than I have with anyone else here. Also, Georgie actually has some nice things to say about you.
Oh.
That came as a surprise. You didn't even tell me you knew her.
It was a long time ago, before she started doing What the Ghost. It's a surprise to me as well, to be honest. We didn't exactly part on the best of terms. What exactly do you need from us anyway? Can't your showbiz friends help you?
No, Most of them won't talk to me anymore.
What happened? Did word get out that you'd given a statement to us? What was it? Credulous idiots?
Not exactly. Look, in my business, your reputation is all that you have. The industry is mainly full of skeptics, pretending to be believers, pretending to be skeptics.
I think the word you're looking for is charlatan.
Can you not? Please. I'm trying to... Look, Ghost Hunt UK split up. I mean, not formally, but, well, you know, Pete was always a flake to begin with, and the others just drifted away.
I'm sorry to hear that. I noticed you weren't updating anymore.
I tried to get a new crew together, but it was tough. I took to going on expeditions solo, but I don't really have the skills to get usable footage. I saw a few weird things. Then I got arrested.
Go on.
Yes, I broke into the train graveyard up near Rotherham, got picked up by security, and I wasn't doing well. When I was being thrown out, some late-night dog walker got a video of me screaming at them about ghosts. When it went online...
Your all-important professional reputation went with it.
Yes. Look, I have leads that I really need to follow up, but as far as my colleagues are concerned, these days I'm the ghost.
Well, for what it's worth, I'm sorry. I do know what it's like to lack the respect of your peers. I'll have a word with Diana, see if I can get you into the library.
Thank you. Seriously. Now, how do I get out of this place?
Oh, Sasha can show you out.
Sasha?
Yes, she should be around here somewhere.
Oh, right. Well, let me know about the library, okay?
Will do. What a strange woman. End supplemental.
That episode makes me think about how I felt about the dark when I was like a toddler. Because I've had the same like vivid imagination. And I can remember being so terrified some nights and just like laying with like my covers all the way up to my chin and trying to not breathe. And that episode probably does a really good job, I think, of illustrating like the fear of being in like absolute darkness, because I don't think that we really, like the average person doesn't know what absolute dark actually is, because even when we're like, I have blackout curtains And there is still light. I can still see light creeping through. I fell asleep. Your voice is so soothing. Aw, I'm glad you fell asleep. Highest honors for a dream siren. But, yeah. Even with the blackout curtains, the light still comes into the room at night. And that's from one neighbor's light having their light on behind me. Just one. That much light still pours in. But to be in absolute darkness, like, it makes my heart quiver thinking about it. I imagine going into one of those deprivation tanks. I think that's what my friend told me, that if you go into a deprivation tank, it is the same experience of complete and utter darkness. Or, you know, space, man. So the entity obviously in that one was the dark. And yeah, I think that's probably one of my fears, is pure darkness like that. Alright, the next episode is 64. Not yet. Not yet. You wait. You wait for me. Alright, clock is ready and countdown begins now. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Rusty Quill presents the Magnus Archives. Episode 64, Burial Rites.
Statement of Donna Gwynn regarding an unlicensed archaeological dig near the Red Sea in Egypt. Original statement given May 20th, 2015. Audio recording by Jonathan Sims, head archivist of the Magnus Institute, London. Statement begins. You'll forgive me if I'm vague on the details, I have to be. The job I was on at the time was a long way from legal, and even if the courts could never prove it, let's just say the people I worked for take privacy very seriously indeed. All names I give here aside from my own are aliases. It's hard to get a job in archaeology these days. I mean, I guess it always was, but education funding is being squeezed across the board, and the fact is, most higher-up positions in the field tend to only open up once the previous occupant dies. It's sad, but if you look at a full lecture hall on the archaeology course of any major university, you can be pretty sure that none of the people you're looking at are going to end up doing it for a living. A few might get assistant positions on a project or two, but the long thankless hours and endless grind to climb a ladder already full up with old posh men will probably change their minds. I suppose what I'm saying is, I was never going to be a real archaeologist. So when I got a chance to do some unlicensed work, I figured it was either that or train to be a teacher. And I hate children. See, the thing is that there's a lot of very valuable stuff in the ground. Ancient artifacts, forgotten knowledge, all that good stuff. But acquiring it takes a lot of time, a lot of money, and a lot of fiddly licenses and permissions. Not to mention that governments can get very grabby when it comes to the prizes of antiquity. You can't take 3 steps in this field without some wannabe Indiana Jones declaring something or other belongs in a museum. But museums have very limited budgets, and the private market has a never-ending appetite for valuable ancient treasures. So you have my industry, which is like normal archaeology, but a bit more freeform. I like to think of myself as a rogue archaeologist, but I think most people would just call me a grave robber, which is daft because half the time it isn't even graves we're dealing with. But that makes surprisingly little difference in terms of legality. I worked for a man named Starbo. I still might, I'm not sure. He doesn't really make contact when we don't have a job, and this one ended badly enough that I'm not sure whether or not I'm getting another call. I hope so. I really don't want to be a teacher. He first contacted me 3 years ago after funding fell through for my second PhD, and some professional disputes meant that the chances of my career continuing were somewhere between 0 and no. He was very to the point with me, explaining right away that he organised rapid turnaround illegal digs, taking whatever high-value finds were transportable and selling them to private collectors. He had plenty of labour, security, and organisational support, but he needed someone on staff to identify and quickly appraise artefacts or other discoveries. He had previously had a disgraced anthropology professor from Harvard, but he'd apparently been busted smuggling a few extras through customs in China and was no longer available. Starbo said I was just the right choice to fill the position. I agreed on the spot. I never did do great with the ethical aspects of my field. I love the hunt, the research, and the discovery, but to be honest, expanding the body of mankind's knowledge or helping a culture connect with its roots has never been high on my priority list. Certainly not as high as money. So for the next few years I travelled the globe with Starvo and his team. There was me, a geologist I'll call Grigori, Norman, who was the middleman to various antiques dealers, auction houses, and less respectable museums, and a pair of quiet Albanians, Barry and Paul, who acted as the muscle. Well, they did the majority of it, but Starvo didn't like it when people put their feet up on a job, so me, Grigori, and Norman spent most of the time working a spade alongside them, as our expertise generally came in useful in the latter half of the dig. I like to think I earned my keep. Certainly there were plenty of times Barry was all set to toss out some priceless treasure because he took it for dusty trash, and Starvo never complained. This last dig was high risk. Starvo and Norman had ears in the appropriate offices of most universities and museums, so we got word that the Egyptian government had denied permission for the University of Pennsylvania to look into a possible tomb complex located between Cairo and the Red Sea. Again, I won't go into specifics, but it was right in the middle of the Eastern Desert, a good 30 or 40 miles from the closest known explored pyramid or tomb. If the university researchers were right, this place could be both a significant find and, more importantly for us, completely untouched. It was dangerous, though. When a government denied permission like this, you could never be sure that they weren't going to send people of their own instead, and Starvo had plenty of stories of ex-colleagues that had got themselves inadvertently arrested when the military abruptly turned up to secure a dig site. Still, the opportunity was too good to pass up, and Starvo had some contacts within the Cairo police force, so was able to get us a pair of well-bribed policemen to stick around and give us at least a passing air of respectability for any civilian who might stumble across us. So off I went to Egypt, dreaming of finding a new pyramid. I know that sounds daft, but most pyramids are not as huge, obvious, or intact as those at Giza. After 4,000 or 5,000 years, most just look like hills or sometimes dunes, and there could be any number of them waiting undiscovered beneath the Egyptian earth. I was surprised by how easily we found it. Starvo had gotten a location from the university's application, and Grigori quickly located a likely-looking geological formation on the satellite images. Less than 14 hours after I got the call, I was standing, shovel in hand, in the middle of the Eastern Desert, breaking ground over a tomb that had been unopened for millennia. It was exhilarating. Grigori had done some work to make sure we were digging at what he believed to be the entrance, and it only took a day to unearth the slab of limestone that covered it. I could see hieroglyphics etched onto the surface, but they were far too worn to read. Large upon the stone was carved the closed loop of a Shen ring, the symbol of infinity. This struck me as odd, since just based on the entrance, I was pretty sure this tomb was at least 4th dynasty, and the Shen ring was usually used to designate a royal burial place. But there were no cartouches among the hieroglyphics on the entrance, which I would have expected if the tomb contained royalty. It was a subterranean pyramid, I was now quite certain, but if it housed the remains of a pharaoh, their name had not been protected upon death. Barry and Paul wasted no time in hoisting the limestone slab off the entrance, revealing a dark, yawning passage. In the heat of the sun, I was acutely aware of the cold draft seeping out of the opening. Starbo gave it a look over and asked if there was anything we could salvage from the hieroglyphics. I gave him directions to chip off the Shen ring and take photos of the rest for later study. Before you ask, I don't have access to those photos. Starbo still has the camera. You know, in my haste to make sure everything was going smoothly, it hadn't really hit me what we had found until that moment. As I stood on the threshold and breathed air 4,000 years old, it was dry and smelt faintly of cedar wood. I had just helped discover an untouched tomb of the 4th dynasty. We collected our bags, picks, and torches, and headed into the dark. 2 things struck me as soon as we were inside. The first was how big the place was. The passages were far wider than I would have assumed, based on my research on comparable tombs. The other was that there was also significantly less ornamentation. And by less, I mean none. The walls were bare, unpainted, and for a horrible moment, I thought it might already have been ransacked. Starvo had the same thought, but Grigory assured us that the condition of the entrance indicated it hadn't been opened since it was originally sealed. The tomb hadn't been robbed. It was just empty. As we headed deeper, I began to notice passages branching off our path. In each case, they seemed to be heading more or less back the way we came. I called a halt, and Starvo and I took a few minutes to explore one of them. At first, they seemed to be heading back towards the surface, but further corridors branched off until we finally reached a dead end. Then another, and another. It took longer than I was comfortable with to find the others again. It was a labyrinth, not entirely unlike the one found at Havara, but crucially, it seemed to only assume its deceptive, maze-like form when heading back towards the entrance. When walking deeper in, it was rather straightforward. I made these observations to Starvo, and he immediately headed back out and returned carrying the end of the jeep's winch. It was 150 feet in total, and he figured if the tomb ended up going deeper than that, we should probably reconsider our approach entirely. I could see he was getting irritated by these delays and the lack of obviously bankable artifacts. I couldn't blame him. I was starting to feel quite on edge myself. As it turned out, the winch finished just within sight of the central chamber, so we tied a torch to the end and headed inside. Like the rest, this room was simple and plain, built out of rough limestone. It was completely empty, save for a raised dais at the center, about 3 feet off the floor. Lying there were the remains of an unpainted wooden sarcophagus. It had long since rotted away, though the uncharacteristic copper bands that wrapped it still seemed in good condition. Among the debris, I could see the pale wrapping of the corpse, tight around in a way that reminded me disconcertingly of a straitjacket. It had worn away in many places, leaving the flesh of the mummy itself on show, dark black and almost shiny in the torchlight. There was nothing else there at all. No treasures, and no other exits. It was at that point that Starvo lost it a bit. He'd spent a lot of money on this expedition, and to find that there was nothing there except an old corpse and some shards of wood was a significant problem for him. I mean, the architectural implications of the place in terms of mid to late 4th dynasty construction practices were kind of amazing, but I didn't think that was something he wanted to hear just then. So I kept quiet. We all did. When Starvo got angry, it was best to just let it run its course rather than trying to talk him down from it and draw his anger your way. I busied myself making another loop of the room in case there were any secret entrances that I'd missed, while behind me he stood there, swearing. I did notice something in the corner, though. A about a half-dozen small bones, with carvings on each face. Dice. I knew that dice games predated the Old Kingdom by some time, and these were excellent quality. I decided to wait until Starvo had finished ranting before I drew his attention to them. I turned to see him leaning over the corpse, rage on his face like it was somehow this dead Egyptian's fault that the trip had been a bust. I had to stop myself laughing, until I saw that he might actually punch the thing. The mummy was the only thing in that place aside from the dice that we had any hope of selling, and I couldn't let him damage it. I shouted at him to stop, and his eyes fixed on me with hatred burning behind them. I explained to him calmly and reasonably that the mummified body before him might be worth a lot of money. This did seem to calm him down a bit, and he was just starting to apologize for his outburst when he went completely still. His eyes were wide, and he had gone deathly pale. I stepped a bit closer, and as my torch traveled down from his face and along his arm, I saw it. A blackened, desiccated hand gripping his wrist, the thin fingers clenched tight. It was moving. It was alive. It opened its eyes, but beneath those brittle eyelids were empty crevices where they had long since rotted away. It opened its mouth as though to scream, but no sound came out at all. I remember thinking, of course it can't scream. It doesn't have any lungs. Lack of jars meant this would have been a cheaper mummification, and they would have liquefied all the organs over the course of 70 days. Was this thing alive when that had happened? Was it buried in salt for 70 days, feeling the cedar oil slowly melting its insides? These thoughts ran rapidly through my mind as I stood there, frozen in terror. The sound of Starvo's pistol shocked me out of my stupor. He always carried a gun when he went on a dangerous job, and he was emptying it into the glossy flesh of the mummy before him. Each shot sent shards of dry skin and dusty bone flying off it, but it didn't stop moving. Not even when he shoved the gun in the corpse's mouth and blew off the back of its skull. It had released him now, and Starvo turned to see the others had already fled back from the chamber, heading towards the surface following the cable back. The strange half-dead creature had spasmed its way off the raised platform now, onto the floor, and lay between me and Starvo, and the door. He gave me an apologetic look, and then ran, leaving me alone with the thing. The broken, juddering mummy began to drag itself towards me. It was still partially bound in the tight burial cloth, but that didn't stop it making its painstaking way over the dusty ground. There was plenty of room to run around it. It wasn't even that fast. But my legs just wouldn't work as it got closer and closer. Its mouth opened and closed stiffly, dark brown dust falling from it in a steady stream. I have no idea how it knew I was there. It had no eyes, no nose. There's no way it should have been able to detect me, but it knew, and crawled directly towards me. I managed to reach to my hip and pull out my own weapon, a large hunting knife I'd picked up on our last trip to North America, more because its weight had given me a sense of security than because I knew how to use it. I waved it at the approaching corpse, but there was no reaction. When I felt its cold, leathery fingers grip my shin, it was like the panic pushed my mind so far that it suddenly snapped back into place. I gripped the knife in both hands, leaned forward, and plunged it into the thing's throat. The blade sank in with a dry, creaking sound, and the mummy's arm shot up to grip it. I almost threw up from the feeling of its blackened, dead hands on mine. But it was astoundingly strong. Twitching, it pulled my hands away, dragging the knife out of its throat and moving my arm down lower, positioning the point of the blade on its chest, where the heart should be. Then it made me push the knife in. The poor creature hung there for a second, then pulled the knife out and made me stab it again. Over and over it made me do it while its torso racked and convulsed. It almost seemed like it was crying, but without tear ducts or lungs, there was no way to know. After the 5th time it had made me stab it, it loosened its grip on my hand enough that I could release the knife. With a burst of adrenaline, I took to my feet and fled. Luckily, Starvo hadn't withdrawn the Jeep's winch cable yet, or else God knows how long I'd have been trapped down there. Especially since when I emerged into the intense sunlight of the desert, I found Paul and Barry arguing over the best way to replace the slab over the entrance. It took many hours to rebury it completely. But when we were done, it was like no one had ever been there. Starvo didn't say a word as we drove away. In ancient Egypt, dying was the most important thing a person would ever do. Your whole life was preparation for it, readying yourself and acquiring what you would need for the journey. Back when the Nile was the source of all that kept you alive, the land of the living. But as you got further from it, the very earth itself became hostile to you, unable to support any sort of life at all. It was there, at the outskirts, the edge of life itself, that they built their tombs and pyramids. I cannot imagine what they would have thought of a person who could not die. I can imagine what they would have done to them. End statement. If there's one thing I hate more than statements that can only be followed up by making contact with uncooperative foreign agencies, it is statements where everyone involved is a criminal who either cannot be tracked down or is unwilling to discuss their business in any way. This statement manages to neatly combine the two in such a way that any verification or follow-up has proven utterly impossible. The only thing I have found is that Ms. Gwynn is now training to become a teacher. I can't deny I find a certain cruel satisfaction in that fact. I feel anyone who brings me a statement about mummies deserves everything they get. End recording.
You can't just come down to the station asking after me.
I'm sorry, I didn't think.
No, you didn't. Now I've got a whole bunch of questions being asked. They're keeping tabs on me at work.
I just wanted to see
the next tape. Yeah, I get it. But right now, I can't do anything about that because I feel like they're watching me all the time.
I mean, if that's the case, should we even have come down here?
It's fine. It's just work. But if there's one thing I've learned, it's that you and me, we suck at this whole spy thing. I need to wait until things calm down a bit.
Well, keep me updated, I suppose.
Yeah, if I can. Stay safe.
Damn. End supplement.
The Magnus Archives is a podcast.
All right. The next one is number 65, binary, and that might be the last one for the night. We're just at 3 hours of our cozy time together. Let me stop the timer. Stop it. Yeah, we're just at 3 hours. So I think because I was not feeling too good when we started, we'll just listen to this last episode since it's about 20, it's almost a half an hour. So we'll listen to that one, and then it'll be time for bed. It'll be time for EPs. But I will say thank you for spending part of your evening here with me. Thank you for falling asleep with me. I'm forgetting all the things. And I will see you on Monday, hopefully. Please have a very cozy weekend and do something that inspires you when you think about your dream. Even if it's just like looking at things about your dream, or maybe if you're an artist, drawing a picture of what you envision when you think about your dream. Maybe write a letter to your future self that has achieved goals and dreams that you have, Emma. Yeah. Alright, let's get ready to start this last episode. It is binary. What is this one about? Statement of Tessa Winters regarding a strange computer program she downloaded from the deep web 3 months ago. Statement recorded direct from subject. Ooh, we get to leave off on a deep web. Dark scariness on the web. That'll be nice. That'll be nice. Alright, let's get our clock. We'll start our countdown now. 5, 4, 3, 2. Oh, I didn't start. It's just me counting. 3, 2, 1. I missed all of it. Goodness.
Rusty Quill presents the Magnus Archives. Episode 65, Binary.
Are you quite all right?
Yeah, just your tape recorder. It's old.
I get that a lot.
I just mean, I've been thinking about analog and digital, what we mean by them.
In terms of information?
Yeah, we use the word digital to refer to one specific way of storing information, discrete signal values interpreted at pre-established levels. Analog is just a fancy way of saying everything else. Almost everything in the world is analog, but we're obsessed with digital. We try to render everything into it, break the world down and turn it into as much binary as it takes. But it's not the same. I used to work on OCR programs, teaching computers to read, to take the messy physicality of the written word and convert it into something that a computer can understand in a digital format.
I'm not sure what this has to do with my tape recorder.
Magnetic tape. Everyone thinks it's analog, but it's digital. A lower-tech version than what we use now, but people forget that it was used to store computerized data for decades. Or maybe it reminds people of a film reel, or maybe nostalgia turns everything analog. Though people always think of digital as not really there, but the thing is, information is always physically present. It doesn't exist as some formless nothing. Even within the tiniest, most advanced storage systems, physical memory cells change and alter themselves to render that information in a language all of their own. But I suppose it isn't language. Not really, because language, as we use it, is about as far from digital as you can get. Or we may call them words, but the units of data that a computer works with are by their nature discrete and definite, while the words we use are clumsy, vague things, always at the whim of interpretation and decay. Well, it's an obvious thing to say that a computer cannot feel, but it's true. No sequence of distinct ones and zeros can replicate the swirling cocktail of chemicals and nerves that is a human being, or any other animal for that matter. Oh, nothing about humanity is binary.
Right. So you work in computers, then?
Sorry, I am. It's been a while since I talked to someone in person. Been spending a lot of time in my own head, used to just dumping information when I get the chance. I have a blog, actually, but I haven't posted for almost a year. Almost too embarrassed to now. Assuming I'm not losing my mind, of course.
Yes, I hear that a lot too.
Well, that's what's terrifying, isn't it? Your mind is all you are. There's no backup, no reset if it goes. I'm not just talking about madness as it appears, but what it is from inside. The way people talk about it, it's like you have to think you're sane, that our mind is everything we perceive, everything we are. Well, that means you can never know when your grasp might be slipping. I'm not convinced that's it, though. Or maybe deep down, somewhere inside, you understand what's happening to you, and I don't know which scares me more.
Look, I don't want to rush.
I've got a lot of friends whose retirement plans basically comes down to uploading their minds into a computer and living forever in a virtual world. They're so sure it's just around the corner. Well, I've never had the heart to tell them it's impossible. That the human brain is a wet mess of analog signal interpretation that is as far removed from the clean logics of digital processing as it's possible to be. We've tricked ourselves into thinking that computers and people have anything in common. But no matter how good we may program them to be at pretending to think like us, that's all we'll ever be. Crossing the line from meat and chemicals into pure digital systems is impossible. And everything else is just sophisticated programming, an illusion.
I mean, that's fascinating, Ms. Winters, but I must politely ask you to start your statement.
What do you think I've been doing?
Traditionally, our concerns are with the particulars of the supernatural incident, its origins and manifestations.
I'm giving you context.
Fine. In that case, I still need to make the official notations. Statement of Tessa Winters regarding a strange computer program she downloaded from the deep web 3 months ago. Is that accurate?
Well, first off, I didn't find it on the deep web. God, it's like talking to my grandpa. Well, let me explain something quickly. Anytime someone tries to give you a line about the deep web, or even better, the dark net, chances are they wouldn't know a VPN from their own arse. There's not some secret, sinister underbelly of the internet where, with the right passwords and double talk, you can hack your way into a black market of assassins, drug lords, and secret forums. It's just that some websites want you to be a bit more security-minded and need you to use the right, software, so you're not monitored. I mean, yes, there's drug stuff on there, but it's mostly just paranoid geeks who don't want to be caught pirating Photoshop.
Noted. Statement recorded direct from subject, 7th January 2017. Statement begins.
Have you ever heard of Sergei Yashenka? I'd guess not. He's one of the less well-known online spook stories, and you don't look like you're a regular presence in the chatbot or neural net communities. The story goes back to about 1983, during the first home computer boom. There was this programmer by the name of Sergei Yashenka. I don't know if that's his real name, probably not, since a Yashenka is a type of furry Russian hat, and he probably never actually existed, but he was supposed to have been a real digital guru. Well, according to the story, he got sick. In most versions, it's brain cancer, but some say early onset Alzheimer's or some sort of undiagnosed brain infection. Point is, it was killing him and it affected his brain. Now, Sergei didn't want to die. The idea of death terrified him, and whatever was eating his mind gave him the idea to try and save his consciousness, to upload his brain. Well, the next bit, it depends on how ghoulish a version of the story you're told. In some, he spends a fortune in every last hour of his last months trying desperately to code his own mind into his system. And he ends up lying dead at the keyboard, decomposing fingers still tapping away the last slivers of himself. Other versions get a bit more grotesque, handwritten code in his own blood feeding into the machine. I even heard one where he took the direct approach, removed the casing of his computer, carved off the top of his skull, and used the last ounces of his strength to impossibly shove his own deceased brain right into the circuitry. Whatever version you're told, the story goes that it actually worked, and the police found a pile of floppy disks full of impossible code next to the mutilated body of Sergei Yashenka. I'm sure you can guess the next bit. First on floppy disks, then later on CD, and eventually downloaded directly. Sergei Yashenka has been a running prank for people who like to code text parsers and chatbots. They're not unlike screamer videos, just a lot slower and ideally subtler. You create a program which appears to be a chat window with a stranger who identifies themselves as Sergei. The responses should be as naturalistic as possible to begin with, and in the best ones, it's hard to tell if you're talking to a bot for the first minute or two. But then the responses start to break down, become more sinister, and keep referring to how much pain Sergei is in. Eventually, the only response the bot gives you is screaming and pleas to be released. The idea is that the chatbot is Sergei Yashenka's mind, and he doesn't like being in a computer nearly as much as he'd hoped. If it's well executed, it can be genuinely quite unsettling. The only two consistent details across all of them are a particular image of a heavily pixelated screaming face and the phrase, "The angles cut me when I try to think," which marks the start of the bot's descent into madness. Well, as far as I know, these two things have been consistent right back to the earliest versions of Sergei Yashenka. Like I say, it's quite a niche legend, but within certain communities, everyone's tried their hand at making a Sergei Yashenka at least once, or even I looked into it once or twice, and I'm only really on the fringes. I've done a few projects with basic neural nets, but I'd never really tried my hand at a chatbot and gave up after a couple of hours. I used to love them. The whole thing really hit my sweet spot between creepy and nerdy. And if I found myself up at 4 in the morning after watching too many YouTube ghost videos, I'd often go on the hunt for a new one. So when I got a notification from the bot group I'm part of, and it was just a link to a file named yashankasdespair.exe, I didn't hesitate. I downloaded it almost immediately. It was a bit disappointing to see it was a tiny file, or barely over a megabyte. Well, that didn't bode well for the experience, but I was still keen to give it a go later that night when the ambience was better. I looked back at the post and saw that underneath it was comment after comment telling the OP that they'd posted a broken link. I shrugged it off at the time, but looking back, I think I was probably the first person to click it, and the only one it worked for, just unlucky, I guess. I forgot about it for a while, but I didn't have anything scheduled for the next day, so I spent most of the evening drinking and messing about online. It was about 2 in the morning when I remembered what I had waiting in my downloads. I looked out at the dark, empty street below, and a pleasing shiver ran up my spine. I decided I was in the perfect mood to have a chat with Sergei Yashenka. Opening the program brought up a chat window. It wasn't like most of the others I'd seen. It looked closer to an old-school text adventure with just a flashing line to indicate where to type your text, white on black. Aside from that, the window was empty. I wasn't exactly sure what to do, as usually the bot would make the first move, so I decided to go with a generic hello. There was no way the bot didn't have a response program for that. I waited, but there didn't seem to be any response. Well, that was fine. Often these things were programmed with waiting times to give the impression of thinking or composing a response. After about 15 seconds, I'm about to give it up as non-functional and close it when the answer comes. It's gibberish, just a mess of symbols and letters like it was using the wrong characters, or some of them weren't even ASCII. I didn't have time to really process it, though, as they were generating quickly and soon filled the whole screen. They weren't static either, but changing and scrolling and it's going to sound weird, and it was only for a moment, but I could have sworn I saw some of the symbols twitch, like they were in pain. It was making my eyes hurt to watch, and I started to feel dizzy, but I couldn't bring myself to look away. Even then, I thought I was just looking at a very well-done horror set piece, especially when I started to notice a handful of English words popping into the wall of shifting text for a second or two at a time. One of them read, "Help, help, help, all run together," and another, "It peels my mind like knives." My mouth was dry and my hand was shaking. But even then, all I could think was how good this was. I was genuinely impressed by how unsettled it was making me. It was the laptop's fan that finally got me. I gradually realized that it wasn't making its normal whirring sound anymore. It had changed to something harsher, less healthy sounding, like it was desperately trying to expel air. It sounded like someone breathing out diseased lungs, pushing and straining and never stopping to take anything back in. It was only at that point that the possibility of malware really occurred to me. I didn't know how it would make my laptop fans sound like that, but my computer wasn't acting right. I tried to exit the program and, predictably enough, it wouldn't close. So I crashed it, planning to have a look through in safe mode. Sure enough, the lights went dark and the groaning sounds of the fan died, but the white text on the screen wasn't going anywhere. Now that, I knew, was impossible. Or maybe there might have been some way to keep it frozen on the screen when the computer turned off, but to have it keep changing and morphing when there was clearly no power running through it, well, if it's possible, I don't know how you do it. More words popped in and out of existence. You wanted to talk, and hi, over and over again. Then all at once, the screen was filled with an image. It was grainy, like a very early webcam. The camera appeared to be lying on a table, looking up at a balding man. He appeared to be in his late 30s, I thought, and was shirtless, with a face frozen in pain or distress. Then he moved, and I realized I must be watching a video file. The man was crying. There was no sound, but I could see great heaving sobs that sent his whole body shuddering. He stared into a computer monitor, the edge of which I could just about see. He seemed to be sat in the dark, and his face was solely illuminated by the screen in front of him. I watched with mounting dread as the video continued. He reached down to what I assumed would have been the keyboard, but he didn't seem to be typing. Instead, there was a sudden jerking motion, and he raised his hand to reveal one of the keys that he had apparently torn off. He brought it to his mouth and began to eat it. I could just about make out the snap of his jaw as the hard plastic shattered between his teeth. And as he reached for the next one, I could see a trickle of blood from his lips. Well, that was more than enough for me. I slammed the laptop shut and pushed it away. I decided that whatever was happening could wait until daylight. I turned on all the lights in my room and sat in an armchair drinking until I passed out, trying not to think about Sergei Yashenka. I don't know how long I slept for, but it can't have been more than an hour or two since it was still fully dark when I was woken by a snapping, crunching noise. I opened my eyes to see my TV screen on. It was showing that same video, the washed-out, grainy blue making details almost impossible to distinguish, but there was noise now, coming through my speakers. I heard him crunching and eating the keys as he snapped them off one by one. I tried to figure out how the program could have jumped from my laptop to my TV, which wasn't plugged in or networked to it. The only thing they had in common was the router, and that didn't make any sense, not unless someone was playing a really elaborate, really horrible prank on me specifically. And I'm not the nicest person, but I've never pissed anyone off that much. All the time I was trying to figure this out, the video kept playing. The man's breathing was labored and painful, and he was talking, muttering to himself, or maybe to me. There was no way to tell. I couldn't make out much through the mess he'd made of his mouth, and what I could hear, I didn't understand. He was talking about how it feels like thinking through cheese wire, and there's no feeling, but the no feeling hurts, and that it's cold without blood. He said that a lot. It's cold and it hurts. He spoke with a Russian accent. At one point, he stopped pulling at the keyboard and reached out in front of him to where the monitor would be. There was a sound of breaking, and he pulled back a shard of glass. I don't need to tell you what he did with it. The worst thing was, even though this meant the screen must have been shattered, somehow it was still illuminating his face. I unplugged everything. The TV, the router, the speakers, everything. Well, that seemed to stop it, at least for a while. I was in a bad way by this point, and I just left and wandered the streets until the sun came up. I didn't take my phone, just in case. That video was 17 hours long. I know this because it followed me until I watched all of it. Well, any time I used a computer, watched TV, or looked too long at a screen, there it was. Didn't matter if it was my own or someone else's. After a few minutes, whatever I was looking at would melt away and he'd be back, continuing to slowly, painfully eat his computer. I tried to show it to a friend once, but he just looked at me like I was playing some weird joke. Only I could see it, apparently. I don't want to be mad. I don't think I am, but there's no way really to know, is there? After a month of this, I finally sat down and watched it through to the end. It was the longest day of my life, and by the end I felt so very sick. I almost threw up when he smiled. Finally, he lay down in front of the camera and said, "The maze is sharp on my mind. The angles cut me when I try to think." Then he stopped moving. I could see the top of his head then, and the back of it seemed to be missing. The picture stayed like that for about half an hour, and then the video ended. I haven't seen it since. I keep thinking about the idea of uploading your mind into a computer. I said it was impossible. I still think it's impossible in the way we want it to be. But I can't stop wondering what it must be like to try and have thoughts, messy human thoughts trapped in the rigid digital processes of a computer. It must hurt, though not a sort of pain that we can understand. Is that enough? Do you have what you need?
I think, yes, I think we do.
The way you're looking at me, I'm going to assume you don't know anything more about this than I do.
Not really, I'm afraid. I can talk you through some other encounters we've recorded with supposedly haunted computers, and I think one of our postgrad students is working on something about supernatural manifestations in technology, but I don't think we have anything else like this.
Yeah, I figured. I just saw your post and thought, why not? And it does feel good to talk about it, you know?
Yes, I very much understand. Oh, while I have you... Supplemental. It looks like my posting on a few of the more tech-savvy boards appealing for statements has worked. While the incident itself seems ultimately inconsequential, I was able to convince Tessa to have a look at Gertrude's laptop, claiming to have locked myself out. I don't know what she did, something about command lines and administrative privileges, but I now have access. I'm almost afraid
Hey, where did you put the... Oh, sorry. Didn't mean to disturb you while you were being suspicious.
It's fine.
No, I'll catch you when you're not scheming.
No need to take that time.
What?
Nothing. I'll see you later.
No. What did you say?
I said there's no need for the attitude. I know things have been difficult,
Oh,
but...
they have they? Things have been difficult. You spent a month staring at that footage, double-checking every moment, timing every tea break, looking at me like I somehow staged it, but no, you're right. Things have been difficult.
It just seems a little too convenient.
Excuse me?
I mean, the CCTV is so corrupted that the police can't just use it immediately, and then they happen to finish restoring it just when I start really digging into the murder. And if it was an option, why not clean it up when she first disappeared? And don't get me started on the lack of cameras in the archives. I know Eliash's whole spiel about signal degradation and installation issues, but I don't buy it. I mean, he got the CO2 system put in easily enough.
Shut up.
What?
Shut up. Just stop talking. I'm sick of this. I'm sick of you. We didn't kill Gertrude, and no one wants to kill you, you pompous idiot.
Now listen here.
No. You listen for once. I was fine in research, happy. Then you ask me to be transferred here, and suddenly it's all monsters and killers and secret passages. Oh my. And the worst thing, the actual worst thing, is that no one here has my back. With any of it. Elias doesn't care, Martin just wants a tea party, and Sasha... Oh, and you're treating me like I'm somehow to blame for it all, like I didn't suffer the worst right alongside you.
Well, excuse me, if my experiences have
Your experiences? Fuck you! I got eaten by worms because of you.
Well, what do you want? You want sympathy?
You know what? Yeah, a little bit of basic sympathy would have been nice.
Jane Prentice was not my fault. I did not bring her to the archives.
Oh, but you went off the deep end afterwards, didn't you? Everything went to hell, and when you actually needed to be in charge, you just hid down here and played with your tape recorder.
Well, what would you have me do?
Anything. Anything that wasn't turning into a paranoid lunatic would have been fine. Anything that showed you could actually do your job.
Well, Elias clearly thinks
Elias should have fired you weeks ago.
What?
After everything you've pulled, you should be gone. But no, instead, we all get to talk about how you're feeling because we're worried about our stalker boss. I can't do this anymore.
Then quit. If you hate it so much, leave your post in the archives. Permanently.
Are you firing me?
I'm offering you a chance to quit. No notice period. I'll even make sure you get the rest of the month's paycheck. Just say the words.
I want to.
So do it.
I can't.
Why not?
I can't. I don't know. Why can't I quit?
I don't know. But I don't think I can fire you either.
What?
It's this place.
I don't understand.
Neither do I. I'm trying to figure it out. I've got the shape of it, but I'm sorry, Tim. Truly I am. But I cannot and will not trust you. This place isn't right. You see that now. I don't know how or why, but there is something very wrong with the archives. And I don't know who here is a victim of it and who is an agent.
So, what do we do?
For now, I suppose we just do our jobs.
I don't want to.
No.
I suppose I'll see you later.
I suppose so. End supplemental.
The Magnus Archives is a podcast distributed by Rusty.
All right, let's update. We stopped at episode 65. I think we made good progress tonight. Thank you again for spending your time with me. I hope that you enjoyed the episodes we got to experience together tonight. Yes, it's Ipita. As I like to say, Ayasumi or Ayasamira. Good night, sweet dreams, wherever you are in the world. And if it is already your daytime, I hope that you have a very sweet and amazing and cozy day. And I will see all of my dreamers next week. Good night. Naso naso na. Ayasamira.